Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parents Stories. Today we have a very special episode for you, a compilation of some of the greatest entitled parent stories we read over the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few hours of the most entitled parents you've ever heard of. And by the way, Karen assured me that if this video gets 1,000 likes, she won't try to speak to anyone's manager for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And become an official member of the Re-Army today, and I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming video. r/Entitled Parents. Speed through my neighborhood? Get your car wrecked. So this was quite a few years ago. One day my kids were skating in a quarter pipe when this truck comes around the corner with a Bubba driving, and he sees my daughter come off the quarter pipe, and instead of slowing down, he floors it and rips past my house, still accelerating, while yelling something about, "Keep out of the road, jerks!" I yelled also, "Slow down!" The following weekend, I'm out mowing my lawn, and I see this guy coming, so I walk out to the edge and try to wave him down to talk. And Bubba floors it again, laughing like a maniac as he goes flying by with his engine redlining. This guy is a nut. So I go to the hardware store and picked up 3 of those 3-foot orange safety cones, and I put a sign on each of them, "Slow down, residential neighborhood, kids at play." A few days later, I came outside and find the cones have been run over. I already know who's done it. I'm pretty upset, like really angry. And in that anger, I came up with my most brilliant plan. I went to the hardware store and purchased 3 new ones, along with some cement and steel rebar. I filled them with the rebar and cement and let them set. After the cones were ready, I put them back out on the side of the street by my house with the same 3 signs as before. Didn't take long. 2 days later, I'm in my garage tinkering, and I hear that dang truck engine revving up as the Bubba goes pedal to the metal. I look up just in time to see his truck steer towards the shoulder to run over the cones. Dang, it was a beautiful sight like none I've ever seen before. He hit the first cone with his bumper, and the cone fell forward and rotated the base up towards his engine block and actually lifted the front of his truck upwards as his front passenger wheel made a direct connection with the second cone and launched his truck up even higher in the air. The third cone also made a direct hit on his right tire suspension as his truck came down to a screeching halt. There were fluids running out from under his truck, and his passenger tire was angled inwards at a 90-degree angle. Bubba was mad and started screaming about how I wrecked his truck and how I'm gonna pay. I yelled back and said, "Well then, let's call the cops and get them out here to make a report, and you can tell them how you were racing down the road and intentionally ran over the safety cones. Or I can call you a tow truck. Which will it be?" We called a tow truck. I never did see Bubba drive down my street anymore after that incident. I was worried he'd try to get revenge, but nothing ever happened, and we moved out a couple years later. Edit. Didn't expect this to blow up like it has. For those of you talking about the legality of what I did and getting busted or sued, let me clarify some things here. First of all, this happened a long time ago. The legal time limit has expired for anyone to do anything about it in legal capacity. Also, I consider myself sharper than the average bear, and I didn't enact my plan without thinking it through and thinking about the consequences of my actions. I know a thing or two about how the law works. If Bubba wanted to call the cops, I'd have gone inside my home and locked the door. If the police arrived, I'd tell them through my locked security screen I don't answer questions, and my only statement would be that I only speak through my attorney. At that point, police would make their report and run it up the chain of command. If the state or local prosecutor wanted to conduct an investigation, I'd go with an attorney and deny any involvement. They'd have to, at that point, decide how much time do they have to try and investigate this matter and what is the likelihood of a conviction. Since I lived in a big city, I'm sure they had a lot worse things happening that would be taking up their caseload. Speaking of trucks, do you like trucks or cars better? Please let us know. Nothing like a man with a big loud truck, especially when that smoke comes out of the tailpipe. Am I the jerk for giving my daughter $100,000 and not giving my son anything? I know the title sounds bad, but please hear me out. I, 55 male, have 2 kids, Anna, 30-year-old female, and Alex, 27-year-old male. Their mom isn't in the picture. I have a relatively high-earning job, so I was able to save up for both of them to go to college, which amounted to about $100,000 each. The thing is, Anna got a full scholarship for college where both her tuition fees and living expenses were paid for, but I had to pay for my son's education and living expenses with the money I had saved up. Both my kids knew I had $100,000 for their college education, but since my daughter got a full ride, I told her I'd hold on to it until she either wants to use it for her wedding or a down payment for a house. So last week, Anna asked for the money to buy a house, and I gladly gave it to her. But a few days later, I got an angry call from Alex accusing me of favoritism and how I'm being unfair. I explained to him that I just gave her the college fund I was saving up for her, which was the same amount as what I'd given him for college. He still thinks I should have split the money evenly so it would be more fair. I have no idea how he knew about it, but I think my wife, their stepmom, told him. Anna has since told me that her brother has been calling her every now and then demanding for his half of the money. So both my kids are fighting now. My wife told me that I'm being a bit unfair and that the money is tearing the family apart. I told her that it was always Anna's money and I already gave Alex his share to pay for his college expenses. Both kids are college educated with good jobs, so it's not like Alex desperately needs the money. So Reddit, am I the jerk? I think that splitting the money would have been very unfair to Anna, who worked hard to get her scholarship. But what do you guys think? Edit. I spent a bit over $100,000 on Alex's education because not only did I pay for his tuition fees, but I also paid for his rent, bills, food, and everything in between. What do you guys think? Was this fair or not? Please let us know.
The son's entitlement is impressive, but he is not a Karen yet.
Delivery driver can't park on your driveway? To explain, I work for a national wine retailer, mainly as a delivery driver. We offer free delivery straight to your door when you order from our store. In the before times, this meant maybe 10 deliveries every few days to our local catchment, as most people purchased in store. However, because we have been shut to customers for the last few months, it means between 30 to 40 deliveries per day, 6 days a week. On to the customer. Let's call her Susan. Susan orders regularly, a bit too regularly, and has made it abundantly clear to both our drivers, our store manager, our customer service team, and HQ that we are unequivocally not allowed to maneuver onto her driveway during deliveries. Her house is at the end of a cul-de-sac with a driveway technically shared between 5 houses as a sort of branching design, so it's quite away from the main road. I had the pleasure of delivering during a particularly stormy day. The wind was driving the rain sideways, instant flash flooding across the county. I was soaking wet after the first stop, and this was now only number 24 of 39. I was already not a happy bunny when reading the next address, and my heart sank as I realized I would be carrying large crates of beer and boxes of wine by hand roughly 30 meters to Susan's front door, about 7 relays in total. Rolling up to said address, my head went, oh no, and I reversed the van all the way to Susan's house, braced myself against the seat to open my door into what I can only imagine a lonely sock feels like inside a washing machine. My glasses were instantly blown from my face, and as I scrambled to find them in the rising inches of water, I hear a scream from above. Terrified that some person had been gusted into the upper atmosphere, I whip around to see Susan, protected by an umbrella, leaning out of her bedroom window, shrieking at me to get my van off her property. I shout back that I have a delivery for her, my words snatched away by the wind, and point to the logo on the van, but to no avail. Susan continues her harpy-like crescendo. Fine, I think to myself. If I can't park on your driveway, you can come and pick up your booze from the road. I give Susan a sarcastic salute, jump in the van, and park back on the main road. Content, Susan meanders her substantial mass down to the front door and opens the porch in anticipation. While staring dead at her, I open the back doors of the van and begin neatly stacking her boxes on the road in the biggest puddle I could reach. Susan explodes at me, though through the gale force wind, I can't hear the particular words she's screeching. I give a cheery wave, hop back in the van, and wheels spin off, heart pounding like my bungee cord has just snapped mid-jump. The rest of the day is going wetly, and I get a phone call from my manager. Susan has called in to file a complaint against me, ordered that I be fired, and called me a bunch of highly offensive names, as well as insulting the wider company and questioning the effectiveness of female delivery drivers to my female manager. She was so offensive that my manager couldn't get out of her what the actual problem was and ended the rage dial by calmly explaining to Susan that she is no longer a customer with us and to never contact us again. Just to clear up a few things, Susan's house had a free parking space opposite her front door, so I would not have blocked anyone else in. I left the delivery on the pavement, not in front of potential traffic. This was in the UK, so no HOA. The engine would have been off during this delivery. It's also a small van, the size of a normal car. Susan had never given a reason for not allowing us on her driveway, and no one else ever has. Would you park in a Karen's driveway if you knew she was going to get mad at you? Or would you be afraid to? Let us know.
You better stay out of my driveway, or I'll do something nasty to your car.
Am I the jerk for refusing to take off my heels around my short male cousin? Hey Reddit! I, then 15 female, went to a female celebration last Christmas. It got brought up today on a family Zoom call because we were meeting said cousin and aunt on holiday next month, and my aunt seriously told me to forget my heels. So last Christmas, we stayed in a hotel and had a meal where we got dressed up. I wore a black dress with black high heels. I picked the shoes because I liked them, and they looked cool with my outfit. I'm 5'4" by the way, and my cousin, James, then 23, is 5'5", or 5'6". With the heels, I was a bit taller than him. When I came downstairs for food and he saw me in my heels, he was immediately sulky, especially when we took a family photo. In my family, they put the cousins in age order, and he had to stand next to me as I'm the next youngest. One of my female cousins said my heels looked nice and commented on how tall I looked, and I replied, "Thanks, I really like these shoes. The extra few inches really makes a difference." James then told his mother, my aunt, that I was making fun of his height. My aunt then told my dad to tell me to take the heels off, and my dad took me aside and asked me to take off the shoes so I didn't rock the boat. I refused, saying, "I'm sorry my shoes are insulting his masculinity." Also, 24 is a bit old to go crying to mummy. My dad laughed, but told me to change to my Doc Martens. I refused. Cue to my aunt telling me off and pleading with me to change because James is insecure that he's 8 years older than you and you're nearly his height and taller with heels. It's enough that his sister is 5'8". I sarcastically apologized for my jeans, which she didn't appreciate, and told her that he's a bit too old for his mom to do his dirty work. She told me to respect my elders, meaning her and my cousin, and I got told off by my grandma for rocking the boat. I mean, I get respect your elders, and that sarcasm isn't always the right answer, but seriously, how can you be offended by a shoe? Not to mention that it really irked me that he's 24 and can't even complain to my face, and has to get his mother, who he knows dislikes me for some reason, to tell me off. Am I the jerk? What would you do? Would you take off those shoes to make your cousin feel better? Or would you tell him to buzz off? Please let us know.
How dare she not change her shoes?
Entitled Dad steals boat motor, acts as his own attorney during the criminal trial, as fool for a client. Cast. We've got me, overworked prosecutor, and we've got Entitled Dad. There has been a case in this forum which resulted in the entitled parent being arrested, and I thought there may be some interest as to what happens after the arrest. This happened many years ago when I was a deputy prosecutor handling misdemeanor cases. In this particular case, there was a street on a private beach with a series of houses in a remote area. There were other places that had public beach access, and this particular place was off the main road and not easily accessible. There was no reason to be there unless you were a resident of one of the houses or were visiting someone there. The entitled dad drove into the neighborhood and stole a boat motor from one of the properties. A neighbor watched him put the motor into his truck, got the license plate number, and called the police. A deputy responded and pulled him over a short time later. The deputy found the boat motor in the back of the truck, and entitled dad admitted he took it. Entitled dad was cited for misdemeanor theft. He wasn't taken into custody, but given a notice to appear in court. This was typical for a non-violent property offense. I then got the case. So I was minding my own business, working in my office, when Entitled Dad called and demanded to speak to me. He then demanded that I dismiss the charge against him. He didn't really have a coherent reason as to why, since he pretty much had been caught red-handed. He mainly yelled and was obnoxious. Legal tip number 1. Yelling at the prosecutor will not result in criminal charges going away, but it will result in having to deal with a cranky prosecutor. When he couldn't bully me into dismissing the charges, he then demanded that another prosecutor be assigned to his case. This did not happen. Legal tip 2. People charged with crimes don't get to choose the prosecutors on their cases. This case is set for trial. He pleads not guilty and elects to represent himself. At trial, I call as witnesses the neighbor, the boat motor owner, and the arresting deputy. Entitled Dad presents a beachcombing defense that if he is able to keep a pretty shell he finds at the beach, he ought to be able to keep a boat motor. It didn't make a lot of sense. It really got interesting when he called himself as his own witness. He questioned himself. by having a conversation with himself. Here's an example of how some of the actual testimony went. Entitled Dad shifts to the left side of the witness chair. Mr. Entitled Dad's last name, do you have a motive to steal a boat? Entitled Dad then shifts to the right side of the witness chair and looks at empty space that he had just occupied. No, I do not have a motive to steal a boat. Entitled Dad slides to the left. Mr. Entitled Dad, do you like seafood? He slides to the right. No, I do not like seafood. My kids do not like seafood. My wife likes seafood, but that's not a motive to steal a boat. I looked over at the arresting deputy who was sitting next to me as my designated law enforcement representative. He was watching with a horrified expression, and I saw his lips silently form the words, "What the heck?" Later, when we were outside, the deputy told me how freaky he thought it was. It took the jury 15 minutes to find him guilty. I don't remember specifically what he got as a sentence, but it was likely only fines and community service, since this was typical for that type of offense. Am I the jerk for throwing my friend out of my house and possibly ending her marriage because she resented me? Me and said friend, Jane, had been best friends for around 12 years. I met her when she started dating one of my best friends. We both got married around 10 years back, few months apart. Around 6 years ago, she confided to me that they were trying to have a baby, but they were having a lot of issues. I tried to be as supportive as I could be. Around 4 years ago, I fell pregnant. It was a surprise, but a pleasant one. When I announced it, I could see that I hurt Jane. I apologized to her because I knew how much this infertility was affecting her. Few months ago, we announced our second pregnancy. Here is where crap hit the fan. Immediately after we announced it, she refused to talk to me or see me anymore. I thought she was upset because of my pregnancy, and I was giving her space. But John, her husband, told me to go talk to her as she needs me. She told me that she had a miscarriage just 1 week before I announced my pregnancy, and she couldn't bear it. I apologized so many times, and I was trying to support her emotionally. She cried to me. I consoled her, but next day she told me to leave her alone. I respected that. A week after, my son's birthday came, and we thought we will have a social distancing barbecue for him and a few people. 6. I sent an invite to John and Jane, but I told them that they don't have to attend if they don't want to. Edit. Because John is the godfather, it would have been weird to not invite them at all. Jane and John attended. Few hours later, I saw that Jane was very withdrawn and upset. So I went to her and asked her if she was okay. She threw her plate across the yard and started yelling at me about how much of a bad friend I am and how selfish I am. She told me that I'm trying to rub it in her face with my happy family and healthy pregnancy. She yelled at me about how insensitive it was of me to announce my pregnancy right after her miscarriage. In my defense, I did not know, and I apologized. She even yelled at me about how I probably just invited her so I could parade my baby bump and lovely son. Did she expect me to not have a bump when I'm 7 months pregnant? There are a lot of things I could forgive, but she not only made a scene in front of some really close friends, she yelled at me in front of my son in my house. When I kept being silent, she asked me whether I was even going to apologize for doing this to her. I just told her I am done apologizing for things that aren't my fault and asked her to leave my house. John took her away, even though she looked like she wanted to yell more. Next day, I told John that I don't want to speak with Jane anymore. I told him he is still my best friend, but I would understand if he has to choose sides and can't talk with me anymore. I don't know what happened between them after that, but John came to my house yesterday and said he wants to leave Jane, and he wanted to crash at my place for a few weeks. He said he's not ready to talk about what happened yet, so I am not pushing. Am I the jerk? What if you were in this situation? What would you tell a friend if they were acting like that to you? Please let us know.
I bet she's not as good at throwing plates of food at people as I am.
I used to work here, but not anymore. So, this is a story from 2014 when I was a leasing agent working at an apartment complex. First, some backstory. I happened to work where I lived, and while this may sound convenient, and I guess it wasn't when neighbors realized who I was. It was common for neighbors, one in particular, to knock on my door and demand I fix something, or that I take care of something for them, anywhere from fixing their AC to lowering their rent. I'd explained that I'm just a leasing agent, I can't fix anything and have no authority whatsoever. And while I have endless stories of people's stupidity, I was rarely able to do anything other than smile and nod and kiss their feet. Eventually, it came to pass when I stopped working there and just became a regular resident of that godforsaken place, which meant I no longer had to be nice. I gotta be honest, I was excited, elated at the prospect of my jerk neighbors knocking on my door late in the evening. I could not wait to tell them to go buzz off. Sure enough, one day, about a month or so after I was done working there, I got an aggressive knock on my door, and I actually was giddy, but also angry at the same time. I had 2 years worth of leasing agent aggression to get out. Anyway, here's how it went. Neighbor: excuse me, I put in a work order for my fridge a month ago. It's making a noise, and you need to fix it right now. Neighbor:
Excuse me? I put in a work order for my fridge a month ago. It's making a noise, and you need to fix it right now, because I can't sleep with that terrible noise.
Me, joyous at the prospect of her setting herself up so perfectly. Is that so? Well, again, I cannot fix it. You'll have to call the office tomorrow. In the meantime, how can you hear the fridge over your own BS? Neighbor:
Excuse me? I'll have you fired for speaking to me like that. How dare you?
Blah, blah, blah. Me: good luck, jerk. I don't work there anymore. And for the 1000th time, when I'm not at the office, I can't do jack to help you. Because I'm just a leasing agent who doesn't fix anything, doesn't have the power to change your rent, and most importantly, doesn't give two hoots about your fridge being loud when you are the one being obnoxious. So shut up and leave me alone. Neighbor, red and flustered. She tried to cut me off, but I just got louder.
Well, I'm definitely calling your boss and having you fired. I can't believe this.
She stormed off upstairs. She lived above me, and I heard stomping around and slamming. Bear in mind, she'd been a total jerk to me every time she'd came over. The others who bothered me at least were nice when I explained to them why I couldn't help. She was always loud, obnoxious, and an absolute jerk when she came to bug me. So anyway, I get a call from my old boss the next day, which was wonderful, because at first she was like, "So, I heard from jerk neighbor that you used some inappropriate language and were rude to her. That's," she snickered, "unacceptable." She just bursted out laughing. This neighbor was constantly causing ruckus, making complaints, being a jerk to all of the staff, and my old boss was just happy for me, saying, "God, I'm jealous. You have no idea how much I want to do that to people, but we just have to smile and take it." What was it like? So yeah, we had a laugh about it. That was a nice aftermath to that, and that lady moved out later that year, and I did the following year. Am I the jerk for having my ex's university admission rescinded? I, female 18, dated my ex, male 18, from sophomore to the end of junior year of high school. We broke up amicably and both moved on. He dated more girls during the summer while I remained single. We were still around each other a lot because our circles of friends had blended and our younger sisters were best friends. At the beginning of the senior year, I still texted him from time to time because we shared a government class and sometimes compared notes, but overall we weren't that close. Towards December, things with his girlfriend got rough, and he began to lean on me like an emotional crutch, often asking me if I could come over so he could vent to me in person. Once, he asked me to go out to get dinner with him, and I declined because I wanted to respect his girlfriend and because I was not his friend. He then decided it was a good time to tell me that he still loved me and wanted to get back together because he could see himself marrying me and having kids one day. I was extremely creeped out because I was, and still am, a teenager who wasn't even thinking about those things. I told him that I didn't feel the same, and he did a complete 180. He called me a prude that was full of herself and said that I should be careful because no one would want a girl with brains and that he was my best option for a future. No, I ended up blocking him so I could spend the holidays in peace. I thought that everything would go back to normal, but once I returned to school, everything blew up. I noticed everyone was giving me odd looks and was so confused until my friend pulled me aside and told me that my ex decided to expose the truth behind our breakup. Basically, he told anyone who would listen that I was cheating and getting with other people and almost gave him a disease. To make things worse, he claimed that I had taken videos of it and shared it with him, which is, needless to say, a federal crime. I was mad. 1, I had never been with anyone. He was the one trying to pressure me into doing that. 2, I come from a Catholic family. They would disown me if they even heard a rumor that I was doing things like that. And 3, I was being accused of a federal crime. I went straight to the dean and told him everything. We attended a private school that didn't take such things lightly, and I was assured that swift action would be taken. I left it at that, trusting that the school would do what they felt was right. 3 months later, and I came to find out his admission to a top university along with his full-ride scholarship for football had been rescinded. I was shocked when I was called to the dean's office and given a formal apology from my ex and his parents. At the time, it felt right. But now, I feel like the punishment may have been too harsh, even if what he accused me of could have put me in jail. Am I the jerk? What do you think? Was this punishment too harsh, or is it exactly what he deserved? Please let us know.
That noob got pwned.
I don't work here. That's my sister. Background. So I have a sister. She's 2 years younger, but we look very similar. It's moderately easy to tell us apart though, if you know us well and spend time with us. She works part-time in Walmart and is 21. I am 23 and work as an assistant manager for a restaurant in town. So I was in Walmart getting a couple of things my sister wanted. She was sick, and due to us being fairly close, I was helping her out and planned on making her dinner. I was just looking for the chocolate she likes when one of the employees came up to me. His name is Tom, and I knew him fairly well as I came there every so often. He was friends with my sister, so she introduced us. We had a chat for a while and he asked how Katie, my sister, was. After that, he went and continued working, and I kept shopping. I had just decided to put something back when I heard a, "Hey, you!" I looked up to see an old man looking at me. "Yes?" I asked. The man just looked annoyed and snapped,
"Come here."
I was just about to tell him to buzz off, demanding me to do something like that, when I saw an old lady stood slightly behind him. She told him not to be so rude and apologized to me. The lady was smiling as she asked me if I could reach the ketchup for her. I decided because she had asked nicely, I would help her out, so I came over and got her a bottle. When I handed it to her, she asked if there was a bigger bottle. I told her that there wasn't and I was sorry. As I turned around to leave, the old man goes,
"Well then, go out to the back and get her a bigger bottle, you idiot. Don't just walk away."
It clicked that the guy thought I worked at the Walmart. "Sorry, I can't do that as I don't work here. If you really need the bigger bottle, then ask one of the employees." I answered, slightly amused by him. The lady looked like she was going to say something when the old man cut in.
"Don't be stupid. You do work here. I see you here all the time. You're just being lazy."
Me. "Sir, you must have mistaken me for my sister. She's the one that works here, not me. I really can't help you."
"Liar! You're a liar! My wife wants ketchup. Get her the ketchup. I saw you talking to that boy. You're always talking to that boy. You do work here. You're just being lazy."
At this point, he's shouting, and his poor wife, who has done nothing wrong, looked like she wants to hide. Me. "Sir, for the last time, I don't work here, and I'm going to politely ask you to buzz off." Finally, someone comes, but it turns out to be Tom. "Tom, is something wrong, sir?"
"This lazy piece of crap is refusing to get my wife some ketchup and is denying working here."
Right now, the old jerk is looking pretty smug, like I'm going to be in serious trouble. Tom. "Sir, she doesn't work here. You must have mistaken her for her sister Katie. I can get that ketchup for you though."
"Liar! She does work here. You're lying. I saw you two laughing and talking. You're just covering for her because you're both lazy liars. I'm telling your manager."
Then he just huffs off, leaving his wife to apologize. A couple of minutes later, he comes back with the manager and is going on about how I'm so lazy and rude and refusing to help a customer and blah blah blah. The manager is just looking at him and nodding along with a smile on his face until old man has finished his rant. Manager. "I can see how this would be a problem if she were an employee, but sir, she doesn't work here. Tom, please get the man some ketchup, then take them to the checkout." Finally, he turned to me and apologized for the trouble and asked how my sister is. When I get home, I make food and tell my sister, who finds the whole thing hilarious. She said she had encountered him before. Karen goes crazy at the music store. This was a little while ago, so I'll be paraphrasing what was said, but I'll try my best to make it as accurate as possible. In the area I live in, there's probably 2 or 3 main music shops I know of, and 2 of which are in the same city, a few streets from each other. This particular store I went to has no uniform, but some form of ID. I think it was an ID card around their neck, but haven't been there in a while, so I can't remember. At this time, I had been playing drums in school for about 6 months and decided I wanted to buy a drum kit for my house. This shop had the best prices, yada yada yada, so I decided to go there. As soon as I walk in, I spotted a mother and father with a kid, probably 3 or 4, walking around. I went up to an employee and asked for recommendations and, funny enough, they gave me a recommendation. I hadn't been on an electronic drum kit before, but he was listing all the pros to them and the cons, and after plugging headphones in, he let me play and see how I felt. I'm a big guy. At the time I was 17 and was going to the gym a lot. I was probably a little over 100 kilograms at this time, but it was a mix of fat and muscle. One of the pros of this drum kit was that everything was movable, so anyone could play and not feel cramped. Very useful for me. About 2 minutes in, I saw the mother, clearly the alpha of the family, marching towards me. I paid no attention. I was looking for a kid, and maybe they were just on the way over here too. She stopped a meter away from me, crossed her arms, and tapped her foot. I stopped playing, took one headphone off, and the following conversation happened. Me. Hello? Entitled Mom. Where would the best guitars be? Me. I'm not actually. Entitled Mom cuts me off. You don't know? How would an employee not know? Me. I don't work here. She seemed unfazed by this info. Get me your manager, now. This is unacceptable behavior and a bad way of treating a customer. I just stared at her, almost dumbfounded at how she mistakes me for an employee. Sure, they had no uniform, but I wasn't wearing anything to ID myself as an employee. I'm pretty sure the dad knew I wasn't an employee, but was too afraid to even challenge her. I should also point out, I look much older than I am. I'm also rather hairy and have a badly kempt beard. Me. I do not work here. Entitled Mom. Do not lie to me. I know you work here, and I'll have you fired for this. I know the owner. I clearly displayed on my face my amusement. I started smiling, trying to control my laughter. Big mistake. She started screeching at the top of her lungs, shouting and pointing at me, shouting about how I'm done and that I'm a bad employee. Actual employees came to calm the situation down a bit. I just sat back down and kept playing, and she kept shouting that I should be fired. She was eventually calmed down and taken to a separate part of the store. Now, I thought this is where it would end, and that I had a funny story to tell my friends and a memory to laugh at. But no. I decided not to get this version of the drum kit, but get a more advanced, upgraded version, which they didn't have in stock. The other store, a few streets away, did, so I quickly walked there, asking for assistance, and the same general process as before happened. I sat down, and as I was putting the headphones on, she walks in, demanding to see the guitar section. And to my luck, it was right beside me. I played as normal, testing out the features and feeling the way it plays. The dad lifts the guitar, despite it saying to ask for an employee to help, and hands it to the son, who instantly drops it. In my attempt not to laugh, I fake coughed and looked away, but she had heard. She turns on her heel and, Do you know how rude? Why are you here? Me. Don't work here either. I did as any normal, sane person would do. Assume it's coincidence and move on. She, following the path of being senile, assumed I was obviously following her and harassing her. Entitled Mom. You followed us here. Me. I was here first. This clearly didn't matter as she called for security. 2 guys, smaller than me, came over and asked if there was a problem, and before I could open my mouth, she said, Yes, he is harassing us, smirking and smugly looking at me. At this point, I realized it could get serious. I stood up and said, Me. Check the security footage. I came in here first and didn't even talk to her. She approached me. The 2 guys, knowing I had come in first, said to her it'll be investigated. She was having none of this, and as expected, screaming, shouting, and flailing ensued. I turned to one of the guys and explained what had happened at the other store, and he brought me away and sorted out with the drum kit. In short, forget that jerk. Accusing a large built guy of this stuff could have went completely south and got me in serious trouble, but thankfully nothing came from it. I didn't believe people like this actually existed, but now I feel sorry for those who deal with them on a daily basis. Brofist to all those who deal with crazies every day. Am I the jerk for giving away my sister's cat? My sister, who's 26, adopted a cat last year. However, she has low-key neglected that cat, and she doesn't play with him, despite him being very hyper and playful, and she gets annoyed at him sometimes. The cat was basically only there for her to snap cute pics of him for social media, so I started taking care of him almost as if he was my own cat. However, despite my sister not wanting to take care of him and giving him basic needs, she still was annoyed with the fact that I bought him stuff and would tell me to take off the collar I bought him because she doesn't like the color, and told me to call him by the name she gave him rather than the nickname I gave him. 3 months ago, he got sick, very sick. He would not move, would not eat, he was constantly vomiting, and he had diarrhea. So I told my sister, and she said she's busy with work and that I should take him to the vet, which I did. He had to stay there because it was so bad. When it came time for payment, I asked my sister to pay, considering I don't have a job. Minors are not allowed to work where I'm from, and the legal age is 21. and my allowance wouldn't cover the price, and my parents refused to pay because it's not their responsibility. It took a while, but my sister finally accepted to pay, but said she'll pay next month because she doesn't have money right now. So I told the vet, and he was understanding, but I had to give him my personal ID to prove to him that I wasn't lying. Another month goes by, and my sister gets paid, so I ask her to pay for the vet so we can finally get the cat back, and she says no, and that she has more important things to pay for, which is BS, because her salary is more than enough to pay for important stuff and still have a lot left over for whatever she wants to pay for. Not to mention, she doesn't have any debts because college in my country is free, and she lives in my parents' house. It was the most humiliating thing to ever happen to me, but I told the vet the truth, and he said he's willing to overlook this and let me go. But on one condition, which was to put the cat up for adoption, because obviously we're not qualified to take care of it. I agreed. When I told my sister about it, she called me selfish and a jerk and all kinds of names, and I was scolded by my parents for making a decision that I don't have the right to make. My sister is still giving me the silent treatment, even though my parents are okay with me now. Am I the jerk for giving up a cat that she wasn't even willing to take care of? Well, what do you think? Was it okay to give up their sister's cat since she wouldn't pay? Or were they wrong to do that? Please let us know. I like cats. They're even easier to steal from people than dogs are. Am I the jerk for saying no when my parents demand I take full responsibility for my autistic brother? So, some background info. I, 30, female, have an older brother, Jay, 34-year-old male, who is autistic. 10 years ago, our parents divorced, and my dad, who's a 60-year-old, got remarried a year later to my stepmother, who's 49, and got full guardianship of Jay and moved him in with them and stepmom's 2 kids. They decided to move to Florida to be closer to stepmom's family a few years ago. A few years go by, and I go down to visit a few times, and Jay seems happy. And then about a year ago, I started hearing that there were problems, mainly that he's running away when he gets angry. They then say if Jay does so again, they are done. I honestly thought they were just saying it in the heat of the moment and that they didn't mean it. Now, Dad gets frustrated easily with Jay because he just doesn't understand him. And stepmom, she's the kind of person who's always right, even when wrong. Everything has to be her way or she gets upset and storms off to pout and stew. I know because I lived with them for a bit before they moved. So last year, I started a new job and make a lot more money than when I worked in retail. I was finally able to start looking for my own place, and in May of this year, closing on July 20th, I found a beautiful house that is small, but a perfect starter home for me. I was so happy to finally stand on my own feet. On to the story. 2 days ago, while at work, I get a call from them. Right away, I was worried. They never call me at work. The first thing they say to me when I answer is that Jay has run away again, and they are completely done with him. Yes, in those words. I was shocked. When I asked why, they told me he was making too much noise while washing dishes and they were trying to watch a movie, so stepmom yelled at him. They made it sound like it was nothing, but it was bad enough that he ran away without his shoes. They then tell me that they are glad that I'm getting my place because they want him to move in with me ASAP. They had to hang up after that. Police arrived to talk to them. I don't know how to feel right now. I've known that at some point I was going to have to take care of my brother, but I was expecting it to be in my 40s when I was more settled. I'm scared to take on this responsibility. I just don't feel ready at this point in my life. I feel guilty for not wanting this yet, and like I'm being a bad sister for wanting to say so. I feel like if I move him in, my life will be over, and it's killing me. Dad and stepmom are in perfect health. They own a home in a nice area and make more than enough money to get by. They also refuse to talk to our biological mom about what's going on and demand that I not tell her either. She knows because I told her and is unwilling to talk to them. I just want to tell them to talk to each other like parents. Am I the jerk for wanting to say no? What would you do if you were in this situation? Do you think it's right for the parents to try to put this responsibility onto her? Please let us know. Responsibility? I've never heard of that before. What does that mean? Entitled mom demands I let her kids walk my aggressive dog. Daisy is an extremely dangerous dog, and I used to walk her. Perfectly behaved with her family and on her property, but take her off, and she was a wild animal. She hates everything, mainly kids and other dogs. So we're doing our thing, walking her by a dog park. Not ideal at all, but her property literally backed into it, kind of impossible to avoid, and a dog approaches us. She plays with it and has a good time. Some days she was really well behaved, so we decided to walk her through the park. She was being great, and unless other dogs barked at her, she didn't acknowledge them. That is, until Karen walks up. I get the usual snotty comments, whining about her harness and muzzle, yada yada. Two kids, about 10 and 5, run up, the oldest squeezing a Chihuahua-type dog. I thought the poor thing was gonna pop. Daisy is getting stressed and turns to run in the opposite direction. This is good behavior, so I have to go and practically run with her. Well, they release the hounds. 3 Chihuahuas come and they're biting at our ankles. Where did the other 2 come from? I have no idea. Daisy snaps and starts lunging, trying to bite the dogs, who eventually back off. My ankles were bleeding and I'm allergic to dog saliva, so I can feel myself getting sweaty and whatnot. She makes some sorry excuse about the dogs being happy to have a friend. Some people are looking on, but don't approach because of my wild dog. Kids stand there trying to pet her, and she's still snapping at the dogs, and now at the kids too. Lady holds her hand out and asks for the leash. I'm feeling weak. My knees are shaking, and all my strength is going into holding this dog back. She says something along the lines of, "My daughters want to walk her. She clearly needs exercise, and you obviously aren't doing it properly." I will add that Daisy is not overweight, but she needed a good old D-shed. We argue for a few minutes, and she goes, "Will you calm her down? Stop making her do that trick." I gather all my strength, stand straight and look her in the eye, and go, "Look, she's an ex-police dog. She does this when she smells drugs. I wasn't going to tell you, but if you buzz off, I won't report you. If you don't leave me alone, I will report you and also your dogs for attacking me. So, will it be 3 hurt dogs, possible charges, and an evaluation for your care of dogs? Or a peaceful walk home?" I don't know how she thought that was true, but got very red in the face and dragged her family away. I collapsed over on the grass and took allergy meds, although it was a little late. This isn't as good as my other one, but it's another day in the life of Sebastian and Daisy. Speaking of dogs, what's your favorite dog breed of all time? Please let us know. Poodles for the win. Am I the jerk for telling my friend that she's not an empath, just an attention seeker? So, my husband is pretty sick with some serious health problems. It's been hard, especially with everything going on in the world. Not a lot of people know, because I just don't feel up to dealing with pity and the well-meaning but overabundant bouquets that have been filling our small apartment like it's a funeral home. Well, with things opening up here, my friends and I decided to meet for an outdoor lunch at a local restaurant. Several of them didn't know what has been happening with my spouse, including Emily, my friend. I usually avoid telling her about any problems we have because it becomes such a production. We've been friends for years, but lately my therapist has me questioning what, if anything, I actually get out of the relationship. Anyway, I bring up what's going on, not expecting much, but maybe a pat on the back and some comfort from friends. Well, Emily did not go that route. Instead, she burst into tears and started full-on sobbing in a nearly hysterical way. There I was, the person going through this, dry-eyed, and Emily starts sobbing so much that our friends, used to this routine, immediately just started comforting her. The waiter even came over and asked if she needed anything. I ask, "Why are you crying?" in an admittedly cold tone. Emily, "Well, I'm an empath, and I'm just picking up on all your emotions. It's like I'm crying for you." Me, "Thanks, but I don't need you to cry. So this show isn't for my benefit." Emily, "Well, I can't help it. It's the problem of being an empath." Me, "You're not an empath. You're just a crappy friend who makes every problem about you." So I left after promising another friend I'd pay her back for my half-eaten burger. I was just getting angrier, and she was sobbing even more, which just upset me even more. It may have seemed harsh, but she's always like this. My aunt died, and Emily had this same overblown reaction about a woman she has never met. If she's such an empath, then why is she not picking up on how angry her attention-seeking makes me? I've told her before how it makes me feel like her emotions always come first, even when I'm going through something. But she just tells me she's an empath, so she can't help it. My friends told me I need to be more thoughtful because Emily is sensitive. Am I the jerk, Reddit? I certainly acted like one, but I think her heartless attention-seeking while I'm talking about my spouse nearly dying is a big jerk move. Edit. I appreciate the concern, but my husband is not dying. He's okay. We're just in the middle of a recovery from some big problems. He just now fell asleep watching cartoons high as a kite. He's fine. Thanks for all the well wishes. Well, what do you think? Was it okay for her friend to be acting this way, or was it not? Please let us know. Karen, what's wrong?
I'm crying because our viewers forgot to smash that thumbs up.
so do it now. Medical care provided by the garbage man. I finished my PhD in the middle of a terrible recession, and I was having a hard time finding a permanent job. I stayed afloat financially by adjunct teaching. Low pay, no benefits, and by doing whatever odd jobs I could find. I was a volunteer EMT at the time, and a friend was able to get me a night shift job at a local hospital as an IV technician. Strictly speaking, that should have been a job for licensed nurses, so I suspect the hospital was violating some laws by having EMTs do that. But we were very cheap labor. The nursing staff made it abundantly clear they thought the EMTs were uneducated half-wits. Two suggested that I try to get an associate's degree to better myself, and that we were utterly beneath contempt. We were completely at the mercy of the charge nurses, and all they ever wanted us to do was take out the garbage and clean up patients after their diapers had exploded. Me. How did you manage to get it on the ceiling? Contrary to what the job description implied, it was actually very rare for us to be asked to start an IV line on anyone, and even then, it was usually for combative or belligerent patients. One time, I was asked to start a line on a woman, and the second I stepped in the door, she bellowed, "I only want someone who does it professionally." I had enough practice with that sort of thing from my volunteer work that I could have threaded a needle on a roller coaster ride, and I calmly assured her I could manage it without difficulty. Reluctantly, she let me take her hand, and I was able to get the line in quickly and painlessly. As soon as I returned to the nursing station, the charge nurse snarled at me, "Empty the garbage from the patient rooms." I asked if I could at least wait until the patients were asleep, so the patient I just started the line on wouldn't erupt. But she wouldn't let me get a word in edgewise, so I did exactly as I was asked. Predictably, the woman I had just started the line on saw me with the trash bin, and she started screaming, "They had the garbage man start my IV? What kind of a hospital is this?" P.S. As the early morning approached, I went to the lobby where the janitorial staff was gathering. I quickly picked up on the fact that they all had chips on their shoulders, and they felt like they were being treated like lower life forms. And from my own experiences, I knew they were absolutely right. So to this day, I make a point of being absolutely respectful of everyone, no matter how lowly of a job they seem to have, and to help them out if I can. This has actually paid off a lot of unexpected dividends, as the janitors have proven to have the most accurate gossip network. It seems the executives think the janitors are invisible, and the executives say a lot of sensitive things when they're around. And my corporate spies just love passing the information to me. Am I the jerk for giving my son's college money away? My wife and I are fortunate that we've done reasonably well in our lives. Nothing crazy, but very comfortable. We recognize that we are both very lucky and very privileged. We have two sons, both good kids. One is a couple of years into college and is the one who thinks I'm a jerk. We have paid for our son's college, in the US at a private college, so serious money. We've always been relaxed about college, would have been very supportive if he wanted to do a trade or something else, but he wanted to go to college and we supported him. Recently, like a lot of college-age students, he's become a real idealist and very progressive. Good for him, he's welcome to think whatever he likes. Where it has become an issue is that when he comes home, he started making increasingly snide remarks about how we don't pay enough in taxes. He has no idea what we pay or don't pay, and that our success is due to privilege and was at the expense of other, less fortunate people. I don't particularly object to the comments, I enjoy debate, but he doesn't seem to appreciate the irony that he is benefiting from that privilege and seems content to collect on it while doing little to try and support those he believes needs it. This came to a head recently where, following some of his comments, I said I completely agreed with him and we needed to do more. He seemed really pleased until I followed it up with saying that to do that, we would take 75% of his tuition money and instead donate that to a charity, providing scholarships to disadvantaged people. In order to pay for the rest of his tuition, he would need to get loans or pick up extra work/work nights to help fund it. He was mad. I tried to be very explicit that this was not to try and punish him or get him to change his views, but that it was hypocritical of him to look down on our privilege while ignoring his own, and that he needed to be prepared to also accept a cost for trying to address that inequality. He thinks I'm 100% a jerk, and my wife thinks I'm maybe 50% a jerk. Reddit? Am I the jerk? Edit. Hard to respond to everyone, but I appreciate the perspectives. Nothing has been taken yet. This was a, well, you want to help? This is what you can do to help. What I hope is to have a conversation with him about how he can help, and the relative merit of having some kind of debt/understanding of the cost of what he wants to do. I'd like to work him on what he could give up without really hurting himself in the future. Work with him on where we could send the remainder. Work with him on loans, budgeting, etc. One of my concerns is that he doesn't have a high enough level of financial literacy, and I would hope to use this to help with that. I really want to get it to the point where it's something we both agree with though, and he can also see the benefit in. Edit 2. So this has proven to be a lot more controversial than expected. I appreciate the responses, way too hard to try and address any decent number of them. Looks like my wife was right, and I'm about 50% the jerk. She'll love that. To clear up a few things, we would co-sign loans, likely no more than 25% for 2 years of college. I think I mentioned in a comment there's no chance we're going to leave him hanging for 75%. There's zero chance of him going to a loan shark or having to change colleges or anything even resembling that. He'll come out of it less than $50,000 in debt, which will not take him too long to pay off. He's wanting to go into the same field I'm in, so I'm very familiar with starting pay, what sort of progression he could expect, etc. We're also in no way rich. I would hate to say middle class because about 80% of Americans think they're middle class, so maybe upper middle class. He has boundless opportunities in front of him, and this won't have any real impact on that. Some of the comments about cutting him off are way off base. Regardless of what happens here, he is and will continue to be extraordinarily privileged. I also appreciate the comments around the importance of this being a conversation with him and something that ultimately grows both of us. I wholeheartedly agree. Well, what do you think? Is the dad the jerk or is the son the jerk? Please let us know. I really need a smoothie after that one. Horrible customer swallows his own medicine. I used to work as a junior admin for a medium-sized web hosting company. The actual job title was a little bit different, but junior admin is essentially what the work amounted to. The team I worked for is a sort of white gloves, premium managed hosting service with a fairly steep monthly cost, intended to provide hosting support to mostly medium businesses that were paying for fairly high-powered VPS or dedicated servers, or several. On my first day on the team, I had my first interaction with one of our regular callers. We'll just call him Dan. Dan is extremely paranoid about his server security, and virtually everything running on his server is completely customized with third-party software we do not provide support for. I later found out that everyone else on the team intentionally avoided picking up Dan's chats, and letting me walk into that interaction with Dan blindly was sort of a welcome to the team hazing ritual. When you initiate a support contact, be it via support ticket, chat, or phone, you have to provide either a password, pre-generated access hash, or passphrase set up by the account owner before providing support and disclosing potentially sensitive customer information. Any one of these three methods would serve to verify account ownership and allow full access to the account, including making additional purchases, canceling services, and pretty much anything else. This was not secure enough for Dan. Dan insisted that before any support is rendered, 2 of these methods have to be provided. As company policy only calls for 1, Dan's preferences were simply annotated on a sticky note on the account, which is easy to miss. In my first interaction with Dan, he voluntarily provided only one of the verification methods, and after verifying it checks out, I began addressing his support issue. Dan flies off the handle and loses his crap because I did not prompt him for a second verification method, and launches into a really long and drawn-out lecture on keeping his account secure. He eventually calmed down enough to let me do my job and provide him with support. Fast forward a few months, and more than a few additional interactions with Dan, raising support tickets for asinine questions like, "Who owns this IP address that shows as having been blocked in my firewall logs? I demand a full security sweep of my server to make sure it wasn't compromised." I see that Dan shows up as waiting in the chat queue and groan to myself. The only other admin that worked that night was on lunch, and I was scheduled to go on lunch right as he gets back. Not only is interacting with Dan a complete nightmare, he also takes forever to get to the point, and it looked like lunch wasn't going to happen anytime soon. I accept the chat. The user provides the first verification method, and dutifully, I ask for a second verification method, not about to be yelled at a second time by Dan. The second verification method checks out too. I ask how I can help, and the person on the other end goes, "This isn't Dan. I'm his developer. Dan hasn't paid me for my work, so I want you to delete everything on the server." Working in this industry, I've come in contact with more than a few attempts of social engineering and was completely taken aback by this guy's candor. He clearly knew our company policies, and he knew that as long as the caller was able to verify the account and provide the necessary credentials, we would be forced to comply with their request. I quickly performed an external backup of all of Dan's files. The person on chat did not ask me to delete backups, nor did he ask me not to take any, and deleted all of the site files, effectively taking down Dan's website. I will admit that this felt extremely satisfying, and taking a backup of Dan's stuff was a courtesy that I did not have to perform, given the circumstances, but knew my life would not be made easier if I hadn't done so. 20 minutes go by, and I'm keeping my eye on the queue, entirely forgetting about lunch at this point. I knew Dan would call any minute now, and that I would not be able to dodge his calls at this point. Sure enough, Dan's call, no chat this time, comes in. From the moment I pick up the phone, Dan is screaming in my ear about getting hacked and how insecure our infrastructure was. It takes another 10 minutes for him to calm down enough to provide both methods of verification. Before verification, I was not able to provide any account information as per policy. Once he was verified, he demanded to know what happened to his website, and with a calm I didn't really feel, I told him, "That was me. I deleted your site, Dan. Your developer started a chat and was able to provide both of the verification methods on your account, confirming account ownership. As per policy, this provides him with full access rights, and we are obligated to comply with the requests. This is not the kind of access a security-minded individual such as yourself should have given out to a developer you stiffed on his bill." I told him that I slightly bent the rules for him and took a completely random courtesy backup of his files right before the request to delete the site files came in. Few minutes later, I've got Dan's site back up and running. No idea if he ever ended up paying his developer, but we changed his access credentials and passphrase at the end of the call, and Dan became a lot easier to work with from that day forth. I really wish he had not backed up Dan's files. Oh, leave Dan alone. He sounds like my kind of man. Well, what would you have done? Would you have backed up Dan's files? I know I wouldn't have. Please let us know. Am I the jerk for kicking out/banning a customer from our restaurant? Today, a family came into my family's restaurant and ordered over $200 of food and drink. Since it is summer, there are bugs everywhere, and even if the doors are closed, they still get in. The customers get their food, and when they are halfway done, they come up and complain that there is a fly in one of their meals. I politely said that I can refund that one meal since it has a fly in it. Then he said he isn't paying for any of the food. Then I go explain to my mom what is happening because she doesn't really speak English, and she basically says the same thing, that we will refund only his meal. He gets aggressive, saying he won't pay for anything and is yelling at my mom. She tells my dad, and he politely says the same thing. Then my dad tells me to translate that they can leave, but to not come back to the restaurant. The guy doesn't like that and starts puffing up his chest, yelling at us and causing a commotion at the restaurant. They eventually leave, saying they are going to call the health department and shut us down. Also, some background on this family. This was the second time they've done this. They owned a few restaurants that went bankrupt and had to shut down due to people getting sick from their food. They have quite a bit of money, and people around town say they are jerks. Some customers say we were in the wrong for saying they are not allowed in our restaurant anymore, but others say we were right and should have called the cops. I agree that we should have called the cops, but my dad said no because he didn't want to cause a bigger problem. So, are we the jerks for kicking them out? What do you think? Was it okay to ban that family from the restaurant, or was the family in the right? Please let us know. This is why I take dead bugs with me to the restaurant. It's a great way to get you a meal comped once you're almost done. You are evil. Not store security, but I'll help out. I work for an unarmed security company, complete with uniform and badge. We aren't allowed to have weapons, but can defend ourselves or detain people for the police. I'm not one for confrontation, but I am a large, scary-looking guy. I'm over 6 feet, and I look like a former linebacker. Usually, if I stop at the store after work, I take off my uniform shirt, but that day was chilly and my undershirt is pretty thin, so I wore it into the store. I wasn't planning on buying anything, just checking prices for a birthday gift for my wife, so I didn't have a cart or basket. I noticed a young lady, early 20s or younger I would guess, I never asked, come into my aisle. She looks scared and is looking around, kinda panicked. She sees me and makes a beeline for me. She says, "Hey, can you walk me to my car? Some creepy guy is following me." Now, this isn't the first time I've gotten this request, and I absolutely never say no if a woman comes to me with a request like this. So I say yes, and we start heading to the front of the store. Halfway there, this guy pops out in front of and starts talking to her, saying that she forgot to give him her number. I step between them and tell him that she does not appreciate him following her and that he will be removed from the store if he persists. Obviously, I don't work there, but he doesn't know that. He responds that she's his girlfriend and they're just having a little fight. She is shaking her head with every word he speaks. I tell him it's time for him to leave, and he flips out and starts screaming at me. It takes all of 10 seconds for a bunch of people to notice, including one employee who pulls out a radio and starts talking to someone. As this guy yells at me, I keep myself firmly between him and the woman and repeat that he needs to leave in a calm voice. I figured that a manager would be by soon enough, so I wasn't overly worried. And sure enough, a manager and some of the actual store security, they have store logos on polos and look nothing like my uniform. They ended up restraining him as he kept alternating between screaming at me and the employees and begging the young lady to just tell them he is her boyfriend. I overheard while she was talking to store security that she had never met the guy before. I explained that I was just shopping and didn't work there as I walked her to her car, and we had a good laugh over that misunderstanding. She was very grateful that I helped regardless. Karen threatens to call the HOA on us. Just a bit of info. I live in a smallish neighborhood. There are several trail systems nearby. Some of them are marked trails, others are glorified footpaths. I ride a mountain bike with friends on them because I'm too lazy to drive to an actual park, but they aren't too shabby. The usual cast of me, my friend, an entitled lady, and her son or husband. Friend and I are riding our bikes around our community, taking the occasional trail or going down stair sets. Nothing too interesting, but that sort of sums up me. We're getting ready to turn onto one of the larger trails when entitled guy walks out of his garage. We didn't really know the guy, but I knew his mom or wife was a jerk. I might post that story. As we're turning into the trail, he yells out, "That's not a bike trail!" This was one of the trails that was marked, but it wasn't marked as a designated bike trail. Friend points out that it doesn't say not to ride a bike on it, and Jerk cuts him off with, "Shut it, jerk!" That was just the first part. After that happened, we just started avoiding that area, but we were bound to go back there because the trail is pretty fun. Fast forward to today. Friend and I are back at the trail. We actually went down and nothing bad happened. While we were coming back up the trail, it ends near a railroad and there isn't any other way to get back. We see entitled mom sitting on the patio behind Jerk's house. As we're walking by, she starts yelling, "Hey boys, you aren't supposed to ride bikes back here." Friend calls back, "Where does it say that?" There's a pause, and she says, "A trail sign says there aren't any bikes." It doesn't. I try to explain to her that the sign says, "Use trails at your own risk," but nothing about mountain bikes, and she cuts me off. "Don't disrespect your elders." She then tries to tell us that the trail is private property, even though the sign clearly states that it's for the public. I sort of laugh and say to my friend, "Let's just go. This Karen isn't worth the argument." I said this almost under my breath, but apparently she has wizard ears. "What did you call me? Karen? I know the president of the HOA, and I will report you." I tell friend to leave, and we hightail it out of there. I will update if anything else happens. Entitled mom waits until I go to the bathroom, then lets her brat eat all of my food at a restaurant. Hey guys, so been a while since I've posted here. I was in luck. No entitled parents in sight for so long, but looks like my luck ran way out yesterday. Here we go. We've got entitled mom, we've got entitled kid, we've got decent dad, and we've got amazing manager. Alright, let's dive into some context here. So in my city, amid everything going on, patio dining just started opening in restaurants. I've been super careful during this whole thing, social distancing, the whole bit. Yesterday, I finally decided I wanted to go eat at a restaurant for the first time since March, and this one great restaurant near my house was doing patio dining. I show up and grab a table and place my order. Shortly after, my food comes. Entitled mom and entitled kid take a seat at the table nearest to me. I really needed to pee, and I had a whole bunch of stuff with me. I'd been running some errands. So I turned to entitled mom and asked if she would mind watching my stuff from her seat while I went to the bathroom. She was super sweet. "Oh, sure, honey, go ahead." And then I went on my way. But then, oh Lord. When I came back, I didn't even know what I was looking at. Her spawn was sitting in my seat, with his bare hands shoveling my food into his mouth. All of my bags were rummaged through and full of food from his dirty hands, and entitled mom was just sitting at her table, scrolling through her phone. Me. "Whoa, what the heck happened here?" Entitled mom. "Oh, hey sweetie. Looks like he took a real liking to your food. He just couldn't keep his paws off." Me. "Ma'am, with everything going on right now, and you don't know where I've been, and I don't know where your kid has been, yet you thought we could just share food? He's eaten almost all of it. And what about my stuff?" "Excuse me, you mangy tween." I'm 19, by the way. "I wasn't gonna say anything, but you don't need to be eating all of that food. unless you want to get fatter than you already are. I also don't like you implying that my baby has something. As for your stuff, he saw some stupid knickknacks he wanted to play with in there. What did you want me to do about it? Quit whining and eat the rest of your food. Oof, I'm in no way overweight right now, but as someone who struggled hard with eating disorders in the past, I was seeing red. Oh, and those stupid knickknacks she mentioned, 90% of it were birthday presents for my mom, whose birthday is coming up next weekend. Oh, and all the while as we're arguing, Entitled Kid is still eating. Entitled Mom and I start raising our voices when the amazing manager finally comes out. Entitled Mom, thank God you're here. This mangy child is trying to take our food and our stuff right over here. I'd like you to call the police. He looked at Entitled Mom, and then back at me, and then back at Entitled Mom. Manager, ma'am, I'm not sure if you're maybe not in the right mindset. You seem maybe a little unhinged, but I was actually here when this young lady came in and ordered. I actually brought her food out since we're understaffed. I mean, I surely could have mistaken you two if you weren't a hag, but unfortunately for you, shrugs. At this point, a man arrives, our decent dad. I don't actually know for sure, but I'm assuming he showed up late to join the Entitled Mom and Entitled Kid for lunch after work because he was on a call still. He noticed the commotion and with a, "Here we go again" look, he hung up and came over. I explained the whole situation to him and the Entitled Mom gave her twisted side of the story, and he immediately believed me, which makes me think that she's definitely pulled some crap like this before. Decent dad, honey, let's just leave, please. Come on. Manager, yeah, you guys are definitely leaving, but you still have this young lady's meal to pay for, and whatever reimbursement is needed for these items you ruined, unless you'd like the police to be involved. Entitled Mom, ha! In your dreams. I'm not giving you or this child a penny. Let's go. Grabs the kid and starts leaving and motions for Decent Dad to follow her. Decent Dad really silently came up to me and Awesome Manager and started apologizing profusely and taking out money from his wallet to give to me. Decent Dad, here, please take this. I'm so sorry. Genuinely, I'm looking into a divorce currently with my lawyer, but she can't know about it just yet. Here, I'm really sorry about your stuff and your food. Please replace everything on me. I'm so sorry. He closed his wallet and left while still apologizing. I felt so bad for that guy. Jeez. I hope he gets out of this situation ASAP. Anyway, I think I find some comfort knowing that Entitled Mom has a surprise divorce fastball heading her way. That's gonna be a fun time for Decent Dad and pure amusement for little old me. Speaking of restaurants, where are you gonna go once all of this craziness is over? Please let us know. I've been longing for some Golden Corral. That carrot cake though, yes. Am I the jerk for not wanting to feature my fiance's former significant other who passed away in our wedding? My fiance was engaged for about a month to his high school sweetheart when she passed away. For personal reasons, I won't get into how it happened, but it was no one's fault. This was maybe 6 years ago. Just for the purpose of the post, I'll call her Mandy. My fiance has been very open about this loss and how it has affected him throughout our relationship. I know he misses her, and the memories he has with her are important and special. I don't want to take away anything or demean the relationship, and I've always been there for him on hard days and supported him when he needed it. We got engaged last year. The date is to be determined still for obvious reasons. It was very emotional for both of us, and we've been really happy. But since planning the wedding, I've been feeling like I'm not only planning it for myself, but for Mandy as well. It started as comments from his family, a lot of, "Oh, Mandy would have loved this" type things. I brushed it off at first and just thought it was a way of them processing grief. I have a great relationship with his family, but I know they loved Mandy too. When I went dress shopping, his mom and sister came. They kept talking about what dress Mandy would have worn, what they could see her in, etc. It might seem like nothing, but it really overtook the conversation. So much that another bridesmaid told me later that she felt uncomfortable for me too. It turned from harmless comments into focusing what should be a special event for me into reminiscing over Mandy. My latest project has been compiling old photos of me and my fiance for a slideshow at the reception, or a rehearsal dinner, we haven't decided. He told me there's something he's been wanting to ask me. He really wants to include some kind of "in memory of Mandy" into our wedding, and thinks the slideshow would be a perfect place. At this point, I was, and still am, fed up with the Mandy comments taking over our wedding. I sternly told him that no, I don't think that would be appropriate, as this is our wedding and should focus on us. We are having a table with pictures of loved ones who passed, and she will be featured there. He told me that he doesn't think that's enough to honor her memory. He wants to incorporate her in a bigger way, as she never got her dream wedding. He also thinks it would be a sweet surprise for Mandy's parents, who are invited since he is still really close to them. I did lose my cool, I will admit. I told him honestly how I felt about the Mandy situation taking over our wedding, and how I'm uncomfortable with it. I also asked him if he could ask his family to limit the Mandy comments at our wedding, since now I'm afraid the whole wedding will be focused on her. I told him that I need time away to think and have been staying at my parents' house, but we've still been talking. Am I the jerk? Am I overreacting? Well, what do you think? Is OP overreacting, or do you completely agree with her? Please let us know.
I feel something strange in my heart for this young lady. It's almost as if I wish she wasn't in this situation. What is this feeling and how do I get rid of it?
Entitled Dad wants my granny-in-law's wheelchair. So, several months ago, my granny-in-law was in an accident. This was not her fault. This resulted in both her fake leg and her real leg getting broken, among other injuries. Granny is just full of rage. She's 80 years of rage, people. She had fought hard for decades over wanting to be independent and never be put in a home or become someone's burden. She wanted to live in her own home, take care of herself, and die in her own bed. Sadly, the accident made that impossible now. She'll never be able to walk under her own power again, and she's hurting herself using a walker or whatever you called those wheeled things. She wants to live at home. However, she knew she would need someone there constantly and hired a day nurse and a night nurse to come take care of her. She refuses to move into any home, relatives or otherwise. Well, in an effort to get her out of the house, my wifey and I would take her out. Yes, we were being very careful about where we were taking her and going all out on masks and antibacterial everything. We tried to take her places that weren't too crowded, but also wheelchair accessible. Well, a mall that was about an hour out of town had reopened. It's a sad, sad place because many of the stores were closed and possibly would never get any new business. It was a dying building, but the food court still had excellent food. We went there today. The kids were off playing with some friends, so it was just me, wifey, my granny, and myself, taking laps around the mall, taking turns on who pushes Granny. Now, Granny was wearing a long skirt, but didn't have her fake leg on. You couldn't really see that she had one leg unless you were looking very closely. So I can kind of understand why this entitled dad thought my granny had two legs. See, we got hungry and went to the food court to get healthy food to eat. We pulled up to a table and started to chow down. Then entitled dad appeared. I don't even need to transcribe this part. It's a dime a dozen story about an entitled parent that wants the wheelchair that someone is currently using. We say no, she says no and cannot walk, and the entitled dad demands it for his son. He was sitting at another table, looking like he was out cold. He was that tired looking. Granny finally had enough and looked at him right in the eye and said,
Young man, this is my chair, which I need to move about. I don't care how tired your kid is. He cannot have it. I would not be able to walk at all.
Entitled dad obviously replies, You may be old, but you don't need it at all. You can walk, you old crone. Granny got red in the face.
Old crone? Looky here, little boy. I may be old, but I can still kick your butt, even if my only leg is in a bad shape.
Entitled dad scoffs at her. I bet you're only faking about having one leg. Granny looked like she was about to yell again, except she just grinned. She turned her chair to him and showed him that she was indeed missing a leg.
Think I'm faking here, kid?
She goes in a snide tone.
Think this is a fake stump?
Entitled dad looked embarrassed and tried to talk. Granny wouldn't let him. She actually lifted up her stump a bit.
Why don't you touch my stump? Come on. It might be a real stump, might be fake. Touch it and see. Touch my stump. If it's a fake stump, the chair's yours.
The guy backed off and started for his table. Except Granny started to wheel after him, yelling at him.
Come on, touch my stump. You know you want to. Touch it.
Me and wifey were cracking up at this, so I had to be the one to grab her chair and bring her back. The entitled dad picked up his son and carried him out of there quickly. Granny was grumbling about how rude that man was, but she looked so proud of herself. A few people there within hearing range were also laughing, although 2 people looked disgusted at my granny-in-law. Forget them. At least that got some anger out of her system. The situation calmed her down a great deal and cheered her up. Speaking of malls, when was the last time you went to a mall? Some of you probably don't even know what a mall is. Oh, how I miss hitting the malls with my girls. Now we just buy everything off Amazon and post pictures of them on Facebook. Am I the jerk for supporting my wife after my daughter publicly exposed her diary, which had cruel comments? I have been remarried for a year now to my wife. I have a 15-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son from my first marriage. I also have a 15-year-old stepdaughter. My wife has always gotten along with my kids very well and has gone above and beyond to integrate our families. And although at first my daughter was very standoffish to my wife was eventually able to bond with her. Only then did we get married. A few weeks ago, my daughter found my wife's diary that she had been writing to when we went to marital counseling before we got married. Both our first marriages were terrible, so we were determined to do it right. I also was given a diary. My daughter then proceeded to read everything and even take photographs of certain pages. She then posted the photographs on Facebook and called my wife a bunch of cruel names. My wife had written a few things about how she wished I didn't have kids before we met, so we could have had less issues dealing with my ex. She also said how she hated that my daughter had picked up so many bad traits from my ex, and the last thing related to my kids was that she said my ex was a terrible mother for weaponizing her kids. I admit I was taken aback and upset that my wife had written these things because I knew my kids would be hurt. But this was also a personal diary as part of a therapy exercise, and the diary had been hidden in our closet. My daughter even posted some very sensitive information about my wife dealing with her father, who was an alcoholic. My wife is inconsolable. A lot of my family and friends have turned on my wife because they think what she wrote was terrible. I disagree. She wrote things that she was concerned would affect our marriage, and the counseling actually helped us deal with having stepchildren. And it's not like I shared the same opinion about my ex. I'm just so defeated. My daughter will no longer see me if my wife is around and won't step foot in our house. My son is following her lead. My wife has already apologized several times. My ex has said that she will be starting the process to reduce my custody and sue for defamation. I know she won't win the defamation case, but I feel like custody will indeed switch. I'm very stressed out. My daughter refused to take down the diary pages and insists she's in the right. I have taken my wife's side in all of this. Am I the jerk? My entire family has been blown up. Well, what do you think? Did the daughter have any right to do that whatsoever? Or do you think she was completely in the wrong? Please let us know. Y'all don't even want to know what's in my diary. Half of you would probably unsubscribe. Entitled mom ruins her daughter's birthday because she didn't get a discount. This story happened quite some time ago, but it still kind of baffles me to this day. I work at a Mcdonald's, and we get plenty of entitled people coming through. However, this one takes the cake. When it's someone's birthday, we give them a free ice cream cone when they've finished eating their food. No more, no less. I don't know how it works in other places, but this is how it works over here. One day, an entitled mom walks into our McDonald's with her daughter on her daughter's birthday. The daughter was actually really nice. The entitled mom walks up to the counter, and I take her order as usual. Me. Would you like anything else? Do you still have the product that is not available anymore? No, sorry. That one was available until yesterday. I can give you the alternative though if you want. Entitled mom, already a bit annoyed. No thanks, that's all. All right, that'll be €25, please. It's my daughter's birthday. Don't we get some sort of discount? Me. We don't give a discount on someone's birthday. We can, however, give her a free ice cream cone when she's done eating. We deserve a discount. I want to speak to your manager. Whoa, that went from 0 to 100 real quick. The manager walks over to the counter. Manager, can I help you? This guy won't give me a discount, even though it's my daughter's birthday. Manager, sorry ma'am, we can give her a free ice cream cone after she's done eating, but that's all. Ugh, fine. This is really unfair. I don't know how it's unfair, but trust me, it's about to get even more unfair. Just one block away from our McDonald's is a big shop, which we will call Rico's. We often get visited by Rico's employees when they're on their break. Because of this, we give them a 15% discount on their orders. Rico's employee walks in and I take his order. Me, would you like anything else? Employee, no thanks. Me, one moment please. We have to get a manager's pass to review the discount, so we don't have the ability to give any unauthorized discounts. This Rico's employee was new at Rico's, so he didn't know he'd get a discount. I swiped the manager's pass through the scanner and the price of his order went down. He thanked me and patiently waited for his food. Entitled mom and her daughter were sitting just in view of the cash register, and she saw that I gave him a discount and was furious. She angrily walked up to the register.
Why did he get a discount?
Me. That's because he works at Rico's. Rico's employees get a 15% discount.
And I don't get a discount on my daughter's birthday?
I see her daughter visibly trying to hide the fact that she's her daughter. Me. Ma'am, as I said, we can give her a free ice cream cone when she's done eating, nothing less.
This is BS.
Entitled Mom walks back to her table, and I slightly overhear the conversation she and her daughter are having. Something about calming down and how she always does this. But we haven't hit our peak of rage just yet. When one of our employees is on break, we get a 60% discount if our order is over the price of €6. One of my colleagues, who we'll call Al, is on his break and decides to order some food. Al doesn't know how to use the register, so I help him take his order. I swipe the manager's pass through the scanner, and Entitled Mom sees the price drop down from €10 to $4. She was furious. She walks up to the register, slamming her foot into the ground with every step.
This is ridiculous. I don't get a discount on my daughter's birthday, but that guy gets more than 50% off?
Me. That's how it works. When we're on break, we get a 60% discount if our order is over €6.
I'm done with this. Come on, honey. We're leaving.
Her daughter is sitting at her table crying. Entitled Mom walks out of the restaurant, leaving her daughter behind, saying that she'll wait in the car. They were otherwise done eating anyways, so she would have left soon anyway. The manager wanted to go to the girl to try to calm her, but I said I'd go to her. Me. Hey, are you okay? Daughter. I swear to God, my mom does this every single time we go somewhere. I hate it. Me. It'll be fine. Are you done eating? Daughter. Yes. Can I still have the ice cream cone? Me. Of course. It's your birthday after all. I walk back behind the counter to make the ice cream cone and even poured a little extra into it just to make her feel a little bit better. The manager walks up to me and said, "Give this to her." He gave me a Happy Meal toy to give to the girl. She already had one since she had ordered a Happy Meal to begin with, but to make sure this wasn't the worst day in her life, he wanted to give another toy to her. I walk up to the girl and give her the toy and the ice cream cone. Daughter. Thanks. Is there anything I can do to make it up to you? Me. No, you just go out and enjoy the rest of your day. We'll clean this up. Daughter. Thank you, sir. It looked like she wanted to hug me, but since she was a stranger, I wasn't comfortable doing so. I don't even want to think what could have happened if Entitled Mom saw her daughter hugging me. The girl left and seemed happy. Speaking of McDonald's, what was the last thing you ate from McDonald's, if you can remember? Please let us know.
5 McDoubles with shredded lettuce and Big Mac sauce.
They're basically little Big Macs at half the price.
You're welcome.
I had to pretend to call the cops to get an entitled dad to leave after he forced his way into a building that's closed to the public. I work front desk in an office for a vehicle manufacturer. Just a regular office building. No showroom, no displays. The building is locked and you need an employee key card to get in. On the door, there's a big sign saying, "This building is under lockdown. Employees and approved personnel only." It's neon yellow and hard to miss, but people still try to make it into the building. Like today. I hear a pounding on the door, and there's a dad and his son, who's about 3 or 4, waiting at the door. I walk to the door and point to the lockdown sign, and the dad just kinda shrugs and pulls on the door handle. I shake my head no, and he keeps yanking on the door. I go back to the desk, hoping he will leave. I'm not allowed to let him in. Within minutes, an employee comes in, and the dad and the kid shove their way in behind him. Me. "Sir, you are not allowed to be in here. You and your kid need to leave this building." They come past the lobby, so I have to physically block the hall that leads further into the building. Dad. "We're here for the showroom. I promised my kid that I'd show him all the new models." Me. "This building is under lockdown. You're not allowed to be here. Leave." Dad. "Come on. You don't really believe all that crap. Just tell me where the showroom is. I'll find it myself." Me. "There is no showroom. This is an office building. Now leave or I will call security." The dad gave me a sneer and kneeled down to his kid. "How long have we been driving, buddy?" Kid. "Long time." Dad. "Yeah, we have. But this mean lady says no cars." The kid starts crying and the dad looks at me smugly like, "What are you gonna do now?" I told them to leave again and the kid started punching the ground and screaming, "I want the cars! I want the cars!" Now I'm upset, and I want this jerk and his offspring out of the building now. I went to the desk and picked up the phone. I type in some random numbers and pretend to let it ring. Me. "Officer, made up name. This is OP. I need to report some trespassers. A Caucasian male, short blonde hair, with brown eyes, about 6 feet, wearing a red shirt and cargo shorts. I was very loud and made sure the dad heard every word. He grabbed his kid off the floor and left when I started describing him. I watched him through a window and he sat in his car for about half an hour before he finally left. When he did leave, my manager and I got an email from the customer service line saying that a man called about being threatened out of the building and that his experience was awful. The caller named me specifically and demanded my termination. I told my manager to watch the security footage and that I'm not paid enough for this BS. She agreed. Would I be the jerk for having my cousin arrested? Backstory. A few months ago, my cousin, who I'm close to, had a big co-ed baby shower thrown for her. I was in attendance along with my husband. Another cousin was visiting her parents, my aunt and uncle, and decided to attend the baby shower as well. I'm not close to this cousin at all. We didn't grow up together, are 10 years apart in age, and our personalities are completely different. She's also just not a nice person to be around. Very negative attitude. We are obligatory Facebook friends though, mostly due to my aunt and mother asking us both to add each other. Skip ahead to present day. A few days ago, I got a call from a bank I have a credit card through, inquiring about my balance not being paid, as I have always paid my outstanding bills on time. I told the bank employee I had not used my card, so that charge was fraud. The card account was immediately closed and they began the process of looking further into it. Today they called me back with an update. The charge was for a donation to a charity that I knew of but have never contributed to myself. Still confused about why my card was used, I posted a short rant on Facebook. I got a few replies telling me this had never happened to them and hoping I got it all resolved soon. Then my cousin, the one who was rude at the baby shower, commented something to the effect of, "Well, maybe someone had a good reason for making the donation in your name. Maybe someone wanted to teach you a lesson." The comment was weird, so I PM'd her to ask what she meant. At first, she wouldn't tell me what she meant, but eventually I got her to tell me everything. She stole my credit card info at the baby shower. Her reason? Because about a year ago, I began going to church. I didn't grow up in a religious family, but my parents were never particularly opposed to it. I went with a friend one day and found that I enjoyed the church she attends, so I kept going with her. I'm not vocal about my newfound beliefs. I don't throw it in people's faces or demand they believe the same. It's just something that I like for my own life. It makes me feel better and more relaxed. Apparently, my cousin has a problem with me deciding to attend and join a church of any kind. And because of that, she decided it was a good idea to sneak around and take photos of my credit card, and then use the info to make a $1,000 donation to this charity she knew I would never donate to because they're very outspoken about opposing what I believe, both religiously and morally. Nothing to do with religion. My husband says I should press charges and have her arrested. My mom says that's going too far, even though my cousin was in the wrong. So, would I be the jerk for pressing charges on my cousin? Well, what would you do? If your cousin stole your credit card information, would you press charges on them? Or just let it go? Please let us know. Oh, I just love using other people's credit cards. Am I the jerk for asking the check to be split after my date was rude? I had a date with a girl. We had been messaging back and forth for a couple of weeks, and I said we should meet and get to know each other. She agreed, and we set a time and a place. We met outside and made our way in together, making small talk. We got to our table and the conversation flowed. It looked like it was going good. The topic got on to previous dates we had, mainly the bad ones. She said she had quite bad luck with dates and guys being only after one thing. She then made the comment, "I hope just because you're buying dinner, you don't expect me to hook up with you." I was a little taken aback with that and said, "No, of course not." She just rolled her eyes. We got back to normal conversation for a bit, but I have to admit that after those comments, I was put off her. The date carried on, but the vibe was dead, and I wasn't interested in seeing her again or carrying on any kind of relationship. When the check came, I put down my card and the server brought over the machine. I gave him my card and said to split the check. She looked surprised at me and started to reach for her bag. She asked the server if he could give us a minute. When looking in her bag, she angrily said, "I thought you were paying." I kind of sarcastically replied, "Just because I asked you out, you shouldn't expect that I would buy you dinner. If looks could kill, I'd be dead." She mumbled that I was a jerk and pulled her card out. We left quickly after that and went our separate ways. I told a friend this, and she said I was a jerk for doing that as I asked her out. I said I just followed her rules by not expecting anything. Am I the jerk here? Well, what do you think? Is he a jerk or did he do nothing wrong? Please let us know. Don't argue with people you're paying to eat. So this happened last year on my third shift at my new job. I work at a pizza chain, Domino's, that's located just outside of a supermarket. I migrated to Australia about 6 years ago and had become an Australian citizen before I got the job. Mind you, I had a slight American accent, but I can easily switch to my Malaysian accent pretty quickly. We've got me as myself, we've got Entitled Karen, and we've got my brother, the manager. My manager had sent me out of the store to go pick up some stuff at the local shop as we were running out of a few certain toppings. I sped walked down every aisle to search for the items, checking my phone because it was nearing till the end of my shift, whilst also glancing at cash out area. I finally found the items I'd been searching for when a wild Karen appeared. She started ranting at me about some stuff in another aisle. Note, my uniform is full black dress pants, a black belt, black leather shoes, a hairnet, a black hat with a Domino's logo, and infamous black polo top with Domino's written on the back. It was clear to any sane customer that I was a Domino's worker, while as the workers at the local shop wore white blouse button-ups, black dress pants, hair tied back, and a badge showing that they worked at that local shop. To make it even more of a difference, I was still wearing the apron from Domino's. The hat I had to wear also had the logo on it. I remember the conversation going like this. Also note that this was during my first week at the job. Karen, what are you doing on your phone? Me. I switched to my Malaysian accent. Sorry, what? So unprofessional. I have been trying to get your attention for the past 5 minutes. Me. I don't work here. Don't give me that BS. I want these following items. Make it quick. She pushed her shopping list into my already full hands of large packets of oregano and chicken salt. Me. Ma'am, I don't work here. I work at— Stop making the dumb excuses right now. Do your dang job. At this point, I checked my phone and was well over overtime. While the wild Karen was busy ranting, I ran to the cash out and paid for the items. Then, as quick as my tired legs could, I ran back to the store I worked for. Gave the change and receipt to my manager, who's also my brother. Told him the whole situation on why I was taking 30 minutes to buy oregano and chicken salt. He said I can clock out now and take some spare garlic bread home. While I was in the midst of taking off my apron, the door opened. Mind you, our door didn't have a bell on top, but it did slam shut pretty loudly. Standing at the front was the entitled Karen from the shops. She looked fuming red. My brother handed me a couple of pizzas that were to be picked up. I yelled the name, no reply, so I placed it back on the hot shelf. I turned to entitled Karen and put on my most fake customer service smile and voice and spoke. Hello, welcome to Domino's. How can I help you today? In an American accent. Karen. You? Me. Yes, how can I help you today? What are you doing behind there? You're supposed to be at the local shop, working there instead. Then appears my brother, speaking in his fake customer service American accent. My brother. Hello, ma'am. May I ask, why are you yelling at my fellow employee here? She, give me my pizza. My brother. May I get the name then? A pepperoni pizza, now. Me. Have you ordered your pizza? Karen. What do you think I'm doing right now? Ordering, you idiot. My brother. Ma'am, I must ask you to lower your voice and not to speak to our employees like that, please. I went on to make the order, but my brother had other plans. He told me to clock out and would pay for the overtime, even though it was a Sunday and we'd do 10% surcharges on Sundays. He came home later that night and told me that he had the security to physically remove her from the property. And now I haven't seen that Karen at all. And now, whenever I have a crappy day at work and someone asks, how was work? I reply, oh sure, I enjoy feeding and making food for entitled, ungrateful Karens and receiving shouts from drunkards for 9 hours a week. It was great. I really do enjoy working there though. Am I the jerk for being angry at my family for lying about my birth parents' race? I'm 23, male. I've known I was adopted all along. For whatever reason, I became obsessed with learning more about my birth parents at age 13. I was told all my life that my parents met both of my birth parents before I was officially adopted. My mom was white from South America, and my dad was white from Italy. They specified these two locations to explain why I had tan skin. As I was growing up, certain things about my physical makeup made me more curious about my birth parents. My hair was kept short as a kid. As a teen, I wanted to experiment. I grew it out, and it grew out curly. Big curls, but still curly. This upset my parents, so they asked that I not grow it out. When I moved away for college, I began to let it grow again. I met my girlfriend in school. She is Black American, so she also helped me care for it. She once braided my hair before I FaceTimed my parents, who lost it on me for wearing it that way. Throughout my time in school, I still searched for my birth mom, but would always come up empty. My girlfriend hinted that there must have been a mistake with the information, even down to the name my parents claimed I had before they adopted me. She gifted me a DNA kit on my birthday that I didn't get around to until the lockdown hit. I didn't think anything would come of it because my parents weren't American, so I didn't know if it would work that way. So I sent it out of boredom and got my results weeks later, which have changed everything. I'm Black and Middle Eastern. I have light skin and my curl pattern is so loose that I hadn't considered it a sign before. I have ancestral ties to Iran, which can explain a more European facial structure. I'm sorry for my wording, I'm still learning. I sent my girlfriend a screenshot and she called me right away. We were both stunned, though she long suspected. I tried to believe that my parents were innocently misinformed, but my girlfriend kept pointing out the inconsistencies. My parents claimed to have met my birth parents, therefore they couldn't have mistaken them for white. I confronted my parents, who became enraged at me for doing a DNA kit. I was very angry, yelling. They robbed me of my identity and hindered my search with their lies. My mom told me through tears that my racial background comes with a stigma, that I passed, so she wanted me to have an easier life fitting in. My dad yelled at me that I had to abandon what I had just learned. I rage broke my phone and left. My siblings have been hitting me up on social media, reprimanding me for being upset because our parents' reasoning is sound. I do pass. I did have an easy life. I'm not asking to be part of a struggle all of a sudden. I just don't think I should have been lied to, and I think their reasoning is BS. I'm just supposed to act like 10 years of me searching with the wrong info isn't that big of a deal? Edit. There's no way I can respond to all of you. Some answers. DNA kits can be wrong, / parents can be white South Africans. My parents admit that my mom was Black. My oldest sister also recalls seeing my mom at some point. Both verify that she was Black. Yes, they could be lying again. I have plans to continue to look into my background. You're the jerk for having a temper / breaking your phone. Okay, that's fair. Someone was shocked that I could break my phone. I threw it. I didn't break it with my bare hands. I walked out and threw it out of anger and it shattered. How do your parents treat your girlfriend? They tried to treat her poorly. They were okay at first, but eventually some comments were made that caused me to put some distance between us. My girlfriend was very hurt by their statements, so I chose to keep us both away from them. Claims that I'm race baiting. I don't understand how. I'm angry about being lied to and how that lie has made my effort into finding my birth parents completely void while also rewriting my heritage. You likely didn't pass to other people. That's my girlfriend's stance as well. I'm tan enough that going to an all-white school still got me called names. Whatever issues my parents were trying to shield me from, it didn't work. Maybe this is a lie that I bought into alone. The current state of my relationship with my family? It's chaos. 2 of my siblings are trying to be supportive. I deactivated my Facebook and unfollowed some people on Instagram. I can't entertain the argument that I should forgive my parents and move on. I'm not there yet. I get that it makes me ungrateful for feeling this way. For those who asked about my hair, they're big curls. My girlfriend says they are 2C/3A. My hair texture is not unique to any race group, but drastically different from my family's. I appreciate your support. I appreciate those of you who shared your personal experiences with adoption and race with me, for giving me resources, books, and documentary suggestions, for welcoming me into your groups and giving me some kind words. I'm overwhelmed by your support. I've written down a lot of those recommendations. I'm still reading everything you guys have written as well. I appreciate the kind comments about my parents as well. I don't hate them. I'm just really upset and disappointed in their decisions. How would you feel in this situation? Do you think it was right for the parents to keep this information from him? Or was it completely wrong of them to do that? Please let us know. I took a DNA test once. You'd be surprised at some of the horrible people throughout history that I'm actually a direct descendant of. Actually, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Entitled stepdad doesn't know how borrowing works. Background. When I was 15, my half-sister was born. I was a little older than 16 when my mom had 2 more kids with my stepdad, so this story is several years old. It's paraphrased as well as I can remember it. Cast. We've got me, Bunny. We've got entitled stepfather, and we've got my mom. I was around 17 years old when we moved back into the house after some major renovations. I had essentially moved back into a room that I had spent about a year out of. I remember as I was moving back in, my entitled stepfather grabs my arm and drags me into the living room to talk. Entitled stepfather. Listen, I need to know if you want internet or TV before we move all your crap back in. Me. I had both before. Why can't I have both now? Stepfather. It doesn't matter. Now pick. Do you want TV service or internet service? So, because I was vastly more into internet than TV, I chose to have internet service in my room. He tries telling me some garbage that the wiring going into my room could only work for TV service or internet service, but then he puts up Wi-Fi and tells me to connect to that. I learn a bit later that what he had actually done was remove the TV service cabling that goes into my room by cutting it himself. I don't know why. A couple of months after moving in, I catch stepfather looking into my room and staring at my TV. Granted, it looks like a big TV because it was on a small table, but it was only maybe 22 inches wide and maybe 12 inches long. I'm probably remembering the wrong size, but it was essentially just a bit bigger than a computer monitor. Now, I'm already greatly annoyed. This is before I started locking my door, so people stopped randomly opening my door. But he still had to open it without saying anything to me, and he was just standing in the doorway, still without saying anything to me. Eventually, I take off my headphones and clear my throat. That seemed to snap him out of whatever trance my TV had him in. My desk is beside the door, while my TV faces the door on the opposite wall. Me. Can I help you? I'm also used to him just throwing all kinds of crap at me for me to do, so I'm getting annoyed at the idea of having a long list of things to do. Stepfather. What are you doing with your TV now? Me. What? You have your consoles in the den with the other TV. You play your games there with your friends. Why do you still have a TV in here? Me. Because it's mine? My mom gave it to me long before we came here. I still have some older consoles plugged into it. Stepfather. You know, your sister could really use it if you're not using it. Now, I have 2 sisters. The older one of the 2 is basically the golden child. To this day, she's still really entitled, but she's like 2 at this point. He wants to give a toddler my TV. Me. What? No. What is a 2-year-old gonna do with my TV? Stepfather, angrily, which in his case means yelling. I was going to put it on a shelf. She couldn't hurt herself with it then. Besides, I'm getting sick of the baby TV shows on the living room TV. My mom and entitled stepfather would constantly play kid TV shows on the big TV in the living room. It had surround sound. You couldn't escape it. It played as soon as the kids woke up to well after they were asleep. Entitled stepfather used to complain all the time about how high the electricity bill was. Gee, I wonder why. Me. But it's my TV. I could lend it to her, but I would like it back. Stepfather, smugly. Fine. I find the remote for my TV, unplug and pack my console stuff. I give the TV a gentle pat to thank it for its services. I know it's either going to be destroyed or I'll never get it back. At least, that's what my gut tells me as I see him still smugly looking at me. I then unplug the TV and offer it and the remote. Stepfather. Oh, by the way, we got your sister an Apple TV, so you may be hearing their shows in the morning. He walks off. It takes me a moment to realize what he had meant. My room shares a wall with my sister's. He was going to use my TV to wake me up in the morning with those annoying kids shows. He was going to make sure the TV was on our shared wall. I forget why, but he leaves the house for a bit. I go and talk to my mom about the conversation. I plead with her to make sure I get my TV back. I plead for her to not let him bully me further and to put my TV against a different wall. Mom. Well, Bunny, we were only going to borrow the TV to keep the cost down. Besides, your sisters should get used to their own bedroom. We want them to play with their toys instead of veggieing out with the big TV. Me. Mom, that sounds like reasons why you want to borrow my TV. Please, promise me I'll get it back. I remember tearing up a bit. I don't have a lot that's mine, but the things I do have are expensive to me. Mom. Okay, sweetie, I promise that you'll get your TV back, and if he tries anything, I'll do something. She gave me a reassuring pat on the shoulder. I remember that he installed the TV not on my shared wall, which I was thankful for, but I'd often have to turn the TV down. Someone would often put the TV at max volume. Then, several months later, entitled stepfather came home with 2 new TVs. One of them was huge enough to be a living room TV, and the other one was about the size of my old TV. My eyes lit up, thinking Mom somehow convinced him to give me a new TV. Since it is often that the younger siblings get the hand-me-down and the older gets the new thing, this TV should be mine, right? No, of course not. I watch him smugly go to my sister's room with it and set it up with the Apple TV. But that is also when I noticed my old TV is gone. I got angry. Me. Wait, where's my TV? Stepfather. I knew it. You're so selfish, OP. This TV is clearly for your sister. That's why I'm setting it up here. Me. No, I don't care about this brand new one. Where's the one I let you borrow? What do you mean, borrow? You told me she could have it. Besides, that crappy TV got thrown out with yesterday's trash. Good luck fishing it out of the dump. I let out a frustrated scream. I had tears pouring down my face. If you think I was too old for this kind of reaction, let me tell you, this kind of thing has happened too many times for me to count. Not the borrowing thing, but where he would say I said one thing when I know I didn't, and then hurt me with it. My mom runs over to see me go to my room and slam the door. I started locking my room from then on. I heard them start to argue and yell at each other, but I put my headphones on and tried to block it all out. 18th birthday and graduation happened. I got a big TV for Christmas/graduation, as well as a Wii U, which was maybe a year old, but the newest console for Nintendo at the time. I remember loving both. I remember my mom knocking politely at my door a week after I got them and asking to come in. I let my mom in. We sat on the bed. She told me she figured he would pull some crap with my TV like he had been doing lately. He's done all kinds of crap all the time, but my mom was working nights and sleeping during the day, so she wasn't aware of most of it. I tell her some of the things that he did on a regular basis. We hugged. She told me that she made an ultimatum with him. If he didn't give me, his oldest daughter, a TV to replace the one he threw away, she would simply take a huge one out of their room, the other one that was bought that day. He threw a toddler temper tantrum when she told him, like yelling and screaming, flailing his arms and throwing things, all because he was told to replace the TV he threw out. Apparently, my toddler sister getting a TV was because it saves on bills and she deserves it. But giving me a TV to replace the one he threw away was a waste of good money. My mom told him something like, "You asked her if you could borrow it for her sister. You have to keep your word," just like how she gave her word and never took the TV back. His temper tantrums about this issue started the day he threw it out and replaced it, to close to Christmas when I got my new TV. Anytime my mom brought it up, he'd get angry and throw a fit. Eventually, my mom gave him another ultimatum on top of it. "If you don't give her a TV to replace the one you threw out by Christmas, I'm throwing you out." And that's how I got my new TV and learned my stepdad is a toddler-level entitled parent. Speaking of TVs, do any of you guys still watch TV channels? Or do you just use streaming services and things like YouTube? Please let us know. Who needs TV channels when you've got Mr. Reddit? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up. Aw, thanks, Karen. That's really nice of you. Yeah, don't get used to it, buddy. Am I the jerk for telling my obese friend that they should eat less? I'm 17, quite slim, although I don't think I'm underweight, 110 pounds, 5'5", and I have a friend who's 19 who is quite obese. Now, I never made any comments about her body as it can come off as offensive. Plus, I hate it when people comment about mine. However, for the past couple of weeks, she's been making small comments here and there about how lucky it is to be skinny, complaining about not having the ideal body shape, and about how I'm so small it must be easy for me. One time, she also bought a shirt I picked out because I wasn't big enough for it. Well, yesterday, while we were eating lunch with a bunch of friends, her friends, I don't really know them, but I don't mind their company, she told me jokingly that I should eat more so that men can tell that I'm a woman and not a kid. She laughed, and some of her friends did too. However, the others looked a bit uneasy. I felt really embarrassed and angry since I find it hard to gain weight and have taken years to actually like the way that I look. So I told her that she should eat less and stop pushing your insecurities onto me just because you don't like that you're obese. She then yelled about how rude and inconsiderate I was to be body shaming her and that I can buzz off since men prefer curvy women anyways. To which I said, "Not with that attitude they don't," before paying for my dish and walking out. Now I'm getting text messages all over saying I shouldn't body shame other people and spread hate after she posted on her social media crying. I don't think I'm the jerk here, but I could be, so am I? Edit. I checked my weight again after some concerning comments and found out I actually gained weight. Although it's still unhealthy, it's something. I did tell her to cut it out most of the time. The other times, I just grew silent and left. I know what obesity is. Just because I'm underweight doesn't mean I see bigger people as obese. What do you think? Was her comeback okay, or was it completely wrong? Please let us know. I love insulting people and making them feel bad about themselves. I'm not a lawn mowing service. This one actually happened last year, but it was short enough that I still remember it pretty clearly. I live in a very small town where everybody can more or less recognize everybody else by sight, if not by name, so I have no idea what this lady's excuse is. I was out mowing my lawn, headphones on and music up loud enough to hear over the engine. Note that a set of double railroad tracks runs right through the middle of the city. It's not unusual for both streets that cross it to be blocked for a few hours by a parked train, as was the case on this day in question. But there's an overpass less than a quarter mile up the road. I realized after a couple of mowing passes that there's been a Mustang stopped at the stop sign by the house for probably a good minute and a half. The driver, too young to be a proper Karen, but definitely training up for it, is looking my general direction. But at first, I think she's just looking at the train and trying to figure out how to get around it. But no, she's looking at me. So I turn the mower off and take off my headphones. I figure she just wants to ask me if there's a way around the train, since we're sandwiched between two state routes, and it's a question I've been asked a few times before. Me. Need something? Her. I was wondering, if you're mowing lawns, would you be willing to do mine once a week for $10? Not what I was expecting, but hey, I've heard worse offers. I use mowing for both exercise and time to hide in my own thoughts for a while. I decided to at least poke at it a bit. Me. I'm mowing my lawn. I live here. But maybe. Depends on the yard and how local you are. Her. Oh, I'm just up the street. At this point, I recognize her car, so I know roughly where she lives. Her lawn is probably 2 acres and made of hills. I don't need that much exercise or me time. Me. Sorry, but no. That's her interrupting and huffing. What? Is $10 not enough? Kids these days, honestly. When I was in high school, I would have been happy to earn an extra $10 a week. I'm not a kid. I'm 6'3", and while I do look young for my age, I was in my mid-40s at the time. Sure, I was wearing one of my old technical college t-shirts, but my mustache and goatee are starting to go gray for crying out loud. Me, after looking at her for a moment. Pardon me, but how old are you? Her, sneering. I don't see what that has to do with anything, but I'm 26. Me, sighs and eye rolls. Kid, I was out of high school before your parents even made you. And with that, I put my headphones back on and started the mower while she was just inarticulately sputtering at me. I'm pretty sure she tried to say something else, but it was lost to engine noise and music. Speaking of mowing the lawn, do you do your own yard work or does someone else? And if you do it, do you enjoy it? Please let us know. My son mows the lawn, but I'm a rather distinguished gardener myself. Would I be the jerk if I drove 400 miles to confront my older brother? I am one of 4 siblings, 2 boys and 2 girls. We're all between 30 to 42 years old, and 3 of us are married except for one middle brother. Middle brother has always had problems in school and socially, and when he got older, it was being able to keep a job and pay his bills. Our mother would always guilt the rest of us into taking care of our middle brother financially once we all moved away. We all agreed to equally contribute so the burden wouldn't fall to our parents who wanted to retire. Our oldest brother always hated this idea and resented middle brother for being able to get away with being lazy his whole life and blames our mother for lowering the expectations for this one sibling and always calling him her sweet, sensitive boy. The rest of us were never able to get away with the same things middle brother did, especially older brother who had to do everything for himself growing up. About a year ago, my sister and I stopped equally contributing to middle brother due to financial difficulties, but didn't tell our oldest brother. He and his wife make significantly more money than us and figured it wouldn't make any difference financially to them and didn't want middle brother to get literally nothing. Anyway, during a family Zoom call, our mother casually brings up that her sweet, sensitive boy needs more help than he's been given from his family, and it came out that older brother is the only one paying and he blew a gasket. He called us opportunists, liars, con artists, and lots of other things, and finally said, "Forget you people," and got off the call and hasn't spoken to any of us since, not even our parents. He's missed 2 payments, and middle brother is freaking out. My parents and I tried reaching out to his wife because middle brother will be kicked out of his apartment soon unless we pay. She makes as much money as older brother, if not more, and can easily pay, but refused. She called us crazy for even asking her to go against her husband like that. Now she stopped taking our calls. We're out of options and are considering driving the 3 states away to confront older brother into helping his family. My own husband thinks this is a bad idea and that we should let middle brother sink or swim at this point. Before you ask, middle brother was tested extensively years ago and found he was neurological typical but sensitive, hence my mother's nickname. Would I be the jerk if I drove all the way to physically confront my older brother? Edit 1. Middle brother did have a job before all of this stuff started, but it was part-time and never enough for both rent and essentials. 2. I misspoke by saying confront. I was really going there to plead for older brother's help. 3. It turns out to be a bigger deal than I thought because, unknown to me, older brother had also been partly paying our parents' mortgage and our other sister's student loans and has stopped as of July out of spite. I guess my older brother doesn't care what happens to the rest of us as long as he and his wife are doing okay. I am the jerk for lying, and I accept that, but not for trying to help my middle brother survive when our older brother is fully capable of helping his family, just unwilling. Last edit. I'll be honest, almost 1,000 people telling me how terrible me and my whole family are is both overwhelming and untrue. It's not like we force our older brother, and he fully volunteered to help our parents with their mortgage since they did pay for his college, so I stand by that being 100% spiteful crap. As for my other brother and sister, they can pay their own way. I agree that it's unnecessary. The last thing I'll say, and I know it doesn't matter because everyone's mind is made up, is that if the situation was reversed, I'd be happy to help my family if I had more money than everyone else, but maybe that's just me. Actual final edit. I am the jerk. I get it. My older brother and his wife aren't on Reddit, so hopefully they won't see this. Knowing him, he'd want to defend me because that's the type of brother he is, and I know I wouldn't deserve it. Thanks to everyone for your truthful take, even though it was hard to read. I'll work on composing a heartfelt apology in the hopes he will forgive all of us one day. He really is a good brother. Well, what do you think? Do you think OP was in the right or no? Please let us know.
My sister Carol makes quite a bit of money.
Perhaps I can ask her to start paying part of my mortgage. That's an idea. Lady, I'm carrying a baby. How do you get that I work here? So I live in Canada, where I get 1 year maternity leave. Yay, Canada. So a few weeks ago, I went to meet my husband at his work where this story takes place. My husband is an assistant manager, which is a key detail to this story. I'm carrying my son in a chest carrier. This was the first time customers are allowed in the store, and I'm walking around looking at product. I'm also talking to some of my husband's staff, one of them being my child's godparent, also my godsister. I see this lady walking around with a bit of an attitude, but I choose to ignore her. After all, she's not my problem as I don't work here. Clearly, even if I did, the fact that my kid is strapped to my chest means here in Canada, I don't work here for at least 1 year. So lady is acting like she's in a mood and giving complete jerk face to anyone who can see. Exchange goes like this. We've got moody patron, we've got me, we've got my significant other, we've got my godsister, and we've got the store manager. Karen. Excuse me? Where the heck are all your annuals? Me. Well, they usually are around here, but I don't know. Maybe they're sold out? What the heck do you mean sold out? This is a garden center, correct? Me. Yes, but things do sell out. If they aren't here, then I don't know what to tell you. Why are you guys sold out? This is ridiculous. I want to speak to your manager. Me. Well, ma'am, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. They don't seem to have them where they usually are. Godsister comes over as she's done for the day to see me and her godchild. I turn to speak to her as she's more of a priority over Karen. Still in uniform, but carrying all her stuff to go home with. Godsister. Hey, how's the baby? Me. Great, he's sleeping right now, but overall doing really well. How are you? Godsister. I'm good, just tired. It was a long day. Excited to go home and chill. Me. That's good. Do you need a ride? We can drive you home so you can spend some time with the baby. Godsister. Yeah, actually I do. That would be awesome. Karen is starting to get red in the face, and I can tell she wants to say something, but she holds off. My husband comes up to me, godsister, and our son to see how we're doing. At this point, Karen is red in the face. Significant other. Babe, you finding everything okay? Do you want to go in the garden pharmacy with baby? I started the fan up there for you so you can get nice and cool. Me. Sure, babe, but this lady wants to speak to a manager. I point to the lady. Significant other. Oh, okay, thanks, babe. Turns to Karen and says, how can I help you? Karen. Are you kidding me? You helped her first over me?
And she is your spouse? This is nuts. I demand to speak to a manager.
Well, ma'am, I'm a manager, and I was just telling my wife that I had a space for her to go with our baby to cool off until I'm done. But how can I help you? I stay close nearby just to see what happens. Karen.
Seriously? You have your spouse working here? What type of business is this? Wow, this place is a joke that you hire people like her just to create favoritism. Is this whole place run by you and your family? What the heck is wrong with this place?
Me and Godsister are standing off to the side listening, and I'm feisty, so I eventually speak up. Me. Well, ma'am, I never said I worked here, and I was being nice to you by saying usually this is where you would find the stuff first off. Second, you see that I'm carrying my child in a carrier. Considering in Canada, we can take a year to a year and a half off for maternity leave, how do you get the idea that I'm working here? Even if I was working here, I would be on leave. Third, as you can see, everyone is wearing different colored uniforms with the company logo. Do you see me wearing one? No. So how do you get the idea that I work here? Use some common sense. And since I'm married to one of the managers here, clearly to not make my husband look bad, I was being polite and giving you the best answer I could when I could have easily said to you, I don't work here, so why don't you go find someone who does? I don't have to help out anyone, and you coming up to me and being rude, despiteful of what's going on right now, when we should all treat people kindly, shows what type of a person you are. Also, please stop being rude to my husband, or unlike him, I can tell you to go shop elsewhere with your crappy attitude. But I'm going to tell you good luck elsewhere, as they too will most likely be sold out and not give any better customer service as this place does. I turn to my godsister, who's dying over there, and give her a huge high five. Significant other is gobsmacked, but I can tell is processing. Store manager shows up to say goodnight as well and to see baby for the first time. Karen comes up to us and is not distancing now and recognizes store manager and starts to complain about what I just said.
Excuse me?
Imagine a long drawn-out tone.
You're the store manager, correct? I want to file a complaint about this lady right here.
Manager. Excuse what? What type of complaint? I'm so confused. What's going on here? Karen explains her version and saying how I've been rude to her from the beginning of her entering the store and she's been ignored by everyone. Manager knows me to be anything but rude, so he listens and then he turns to her and says, well, ma'am, I can't take a complaint about fellow customers. Also, I've had the privilege to work with this lady and she is amazing. Also, you need to back up and give us space, as we still need to be social distancing and you could be exposing the baby to something. Finally, if she tried to help you the way you said she did, that's pretty nice of her since she didn't have to. Have a good night as the store is now closed. He walks off and Karen is now screaming about how bad this place is run and favoritism is extremely big here and that she's going to social media to complain amongst other things that she finds wrong. I just died of laughter and everyone else who was nearby was shocked. As she was leaving, I just waved by. So worth it. Crazy lady refuses to let fiance pass at the shop, tries to get him banned from the store. This happened today to my fiance. So my fiance popped up to the local supermarket that's just around the corner to buy a bag of cat litter since when we went yesterday they had sold out. Unsurprisingly, they haven't restocked yet, so he heads towards the only open checkout to try to squeeze past and leave. The line is long, so he politely asks if he can just squeeze past, and everyone in line is totally fine stepping to the side since he's not cutting the line and only trying to exit the shop. No problems until he reaches the lady at the front of the line. This crazy lady is blocking the end of the till, so he politely asks if he can step past. Entitled lady is quite large, and though my fiance is quite thin, Entitled lady is blocking the whole end of the till, so he can't get past without her moving. Fiance. Excuse me, could I get past please? I haven't got any items, I'm just trying to leave. Entitled lady. No, you can't. You cannot cut the line. You will have to go to the back. I don't have anything. They didn't have what I was looking for. I'm just trying to leave. No, go to the back of the line and wait your turn like everyone else. I'm not cutting. I just want to leave. Entitled lady turns to the cashier. This man is trying to cut the line. Have security escort him out and have him banned from the store. Now. The cashier is a lovely Polish lady and is often on the tills when we shop, so knows our faces and has just heard the conversation between fiance and the other people in the line who allowed him to pass. Cashier, with a very confused look at Entitled lady, says to fiancé, "Just go through, it's fine." So fiancé kind of shimmies past this elephant-sized woman who is still refusing to move and is now huffing since everyone is ignoring her demands to have fiancé removed from the store. Fiancé finally gets past, says thank you to the kind cashier, and is about to leave. Entitled lady turning to cashier.
"Get security. He's probably stolen something. Stop him. He's a thief."
By this point, the shop's gone silent, and everyone is just staring at this crazy woman yelling at my fiancé for trying to steal from the store. By this point, my fiancé has had enough and responds with,
"Listen to me. I came to buy cat litter, and they are sold out. I haven't got anything else. You're obviously in a hurry, though. By the looks of things, you're carrying octuplets. You might want to get to the hospital quick. I think you're crowning."
Turns around and walks out the store, leaving the stunned woman in total silence and the kind cashier and several other customers trying to disguise their laughter. This is the second time in 2 days he's been accused of stealing by someone in that store. Yesterday, it was the jerk security guard who's rude to everyone, including the staff. No interesting story. He was just told to empty his pockets and then sent on his way. So I'm guessing his manners went out the window. It's been a bit of a stressful week. I'm just relaying it here as it was told to me, as I was asked to. I'm sorry if anyone is offended by his way of handling it. The layout of the store is a one-way system, so you have to exit via a checkout. You cannot go out the same doors you came in through, so this checkout was his only way out. Am I the jerk for letting my friend know he's not the baby's father? Using a throwaway account and fake names for this. Okay, background here. I've been dating this girl, Meg, since the start of February. We obviously haven't been able to really date much with stay-at-home in place, but we were able to go on a few dates and hang out sometime before everything hit. One of those times was at a party at her place. She lives with 3 other girls in a big house. I brought my best friend / roommate, James, with me since it was a big party. James ended up hooking up with one of Meg's roommates, Liz. A couple of months ago, Liz found out she was pregnant and said James was the dad. He's been freaking out, but trying to really be there and take responsibility. He's already changed a lot of his plans he had for next year with school and job stuff, and I know it's caused a lot of fights with his family because they're really strict / hard on him anyway. We're all in our early 20s. Me and James are both 23, Meg is 22. I don't know for sure how old Liz is, but she was in school with Meg, so I think also 22. He and Liz didn't really know each other very well, so that's been awkward too. So last week, I was on a video call with Meg. We've been having them a couple of times a week to try and keep what we started going. Anyway, we were talking when Liz stopped by Meg's room. Liz didn't know Meg was on a call, I guess, and started talking to her about how stressed she was / what she was gonna do because she had to tell her ex that he's the dad of the baby. I was shocked. When Meg got back to the call, she knew I had heard and asked me not to say anything to James. She said Liz wanted to talk to the baby's dad / her ex before she told James he wasn't the father after all. I guess she really did think the dad was James at first, but the timing doesn't add up right for that. I'm not sure on the details. I agreed at first, but then a couple of days later, James was crazy stressed about the baby and money and trying to make plans, and it felt wrong not to tell him. I let him know what I had heard. It led to a pretty big fight with him and Liz, and now Meg is mad at me. I get that she was trying to protect a friend, but I hardly know Liz, and James has been my best friend since high school. I couldn't keep that from him, right? I do feel bad that Meg is upset. I know her and Liz have been fighting about it too, which sucks. I didn't want that. I know Liz has been stressed about being pregnant during what's going on too, and I'm sympathetic to that. I just feel like I had to look out for my friend. What would you have done in this situation? Would you have told James the truth about him not being the father, or just left it as it was? Please let us know.
How dare he tell James he wasn't the father? He had no business getting involved in their relationship.
I don't know the name of the owner, but I'm her best friend. Backstory. This takes place about a year ago. I've worked at a family-run restaurant for over 5 years, and I've worked my way from the ground up. I started off as a dishwasher, then to expediter, then to server, and then to management. As I grew with the company, I've obviously made a name for myself, and a lot of the common guests knew me, or people who would come in asking for me as their server due to my positive Yelp reviews. Anyways, I was recently promoted again to a different management position due to a recent firing. Due to my knowledge of the kitchen, I was given the position of kitchen manager. Now we got the backstory straight, it's time for the tea. Story. It was summer and the temperature was 100 plus degrees outside and the restaurant was very slow. At most, maybe 4 or 5 tables. Due to my recent promotion, I was working in the kitchen wearing my chef uniform, wearing a specific hat, a black vest that says chef, and my chef pants, which were very dirty and food-stained, definitely not looking like a server whatsoever, as they wore a t-shirt saying the restaurant, blue jeans, and a server apron. Of course, due to working next to the oven, flat tops, grill, and how hot it was outside, I obviously was drinking water and soda all day long. Toward the end of a long day, nature was calling, but right before I had the chance to go, I heard a server come back with food I just made saying it was frozen. That was odd due to the fact we don't have a freezer, and I actually just pulled the product from the oven not even 5 minutes ago. Nonetheless, I happily helped my crew make a new meal. After we got done sending out the food and a bit of cleaning, I went back to the manager's office to let the manager know I was going to the restroom and asked if he would like me to get him a drink on my way back. Before he could answer, I heard the server coming back again, saying the food was still frozen. It was actually still steaming, shaking my head. The server explained that the lady wouldn't want anything else. I felt really bad due to the fact that the server probably wasn't going to be tipped. Anyways, I really had to go to the restroom now, and it was so bad my eyes began watering. I fast walked to the bathroom, but not before I heard that oh so sweet sound. Karen. Ahem. Followed by snapping. It stopped me in my tracks, and I knew she was trying to get my attention due to the fact I was the only person around. Karen. Excuse me. Me. Hi miss. How can I help you? I want my bill right now. A refill on my drink, and get me a to-go drink while you're at it. Now my bladder is literally about to explode, and the lady server was with another table. Me. Sorry miss, I'm not your server, and I cannot get your bill, but I'll be more than happy to get you a refill, a to-go drink, and notify your server of your wanting your bill. Karen. OMG. First, you don't understand my order. Then you purposely made my food cold, and now you're acting like you don't know how to use your own computer system. I'm very confused on why she's thinking we would serve her cold food, and next, I don't know how she thinks I'm a server. Her server is a short blonde female, and I'm a dark-haired male wearing a chef hat. How did she get confused? Me. I'm very sorry, ma'am. I'm not your server. I'm actually the kitchen manager. And she cuts me off and proceeded to lose her mind. You don't know who I am, do you? I'm the owner's best friend, and I know her personally. You don't know who you're messing with. I'm very close with the owners, and when I used to serve, I would be the owner's go-to serve for serving their friends and family. And I've never seen this lady before. But I still tried to be nice and positive. Me. Ma'am, I'm very sorry about everything that's happened. She cuts me off again. I have to go to the bathroom so bad that I'm on the verge of going on myself. Karen proceeds to explode and go on about how awful I have served her and going on about how I purposely froze her food. In the midst of it all, I couldn't hold it anymore and I took off to the bathroom. I finally go and I feel like so much better. After washing my hands, I walked outside the bathroom and guess who was waiting for me to complain some more? Karen. Not only was the service and food terrible, these bathrooms are atrocious and disgusting. At this point, I was fed up, and it takes a lot for me to get mad at work. Me. Ma'am, allow me to get my store manager. I just walk off, and I can hear her following me, going on and on about more stuff that's wrong. I get back to the office, and I tell my manager about this lady, and he goes out and talks to her. A few minutes later, I'm on my computer filling out some paperwork for the day when I hear shouting and something smashing. I run out and see this lady trying to hit my manager. My manager is a 6'5" giant who weighs over 200 pounds, and he was just taking the hits and attempts to smack him. I intervened and stopped it. My manager yells for someone to call the cops. This lady books it out of the restaurant, leaving her purse and phone behind. My manager was okay, just upset about the whole situation. Me. Are you okay? Manager. Yeah, I'm fine. Me. What even led up to this? Manager. This crazy jerk was listing everything that upsets her about our restaurant and claimed she knew the owner. Me. I've never seen her before. Does she really know the owner? Manager begins to chuckle.
She doesn't even know her name and couldn't even tell me any of her kids' names or her husband's name. Me. Really? That's funny. Then what caused her to try to fight you? I called her out on not knowing the owners, and she needed to pay the bill and leave. She didn't like that response from him and just started hitting him. Me. Darn, I wish I could have seen the look on her face. We got a good laugh out of it, and then he tells me he's going to be notifying the police and hold on to the purse and phone. Funny thing is, on my day off, she came in a day later trying to get her stuff back. I guess the owner was there that day doing her usual check-ins, and both my manager and owner made her pay for her tab the day before and even convinced her to tip the server. Never be rude to those who make your food.
Go ahead and spit in my food. It'll probably help the texture.
Am I the jerk for not paying my daughter her allowance because of her entitlement? I have a daughter who turned 12 in December. We are Jewish, so this was supposed to be celebrated with a bat mitzvah, which she refused. She said she was uncomfortable with the attention and she is questioning her faith. I'll admit, my wife's initial reaction was not good, but after she calmed down, we all talked about it rationally and agreed that she did not have to have one. I'd been saving money for both of my children's bar and bat mitzvahs since they were very young. She did not know the exact amount, but she knew that her older brother's was very lavish. Well, my wife has always wanted to go to Paris, so we decided to put the money towards that. Due to everything going on right now, I'm not sure when that will be, but I thought my daughter realized that we were spending the money on France. Today, she asked me about the money and was talking about the things she could do with it, and she didn't know if she would spend it on a car or on a trip. I was very irritated that she thought it was her money. It was saved for one explicit purpose, and since she did not want the party, it is 100% my money. We got into a fight over whose money it is, and I'm still furious that she thought she had any right to it. I told her I'm not paying her allowance for a couple of weeks because she needs to think about what money actually means and why she thinks she is entitled to my money. Note, my kids do not get paid for chores, so she does have some chores, but it's not like she is doing anything to earn this money. My wife thinks she should be grounded for being disrespectful, but that the allowance thing is a jerk move. What do you think? Do you agree with OP or with their daughter? Please let us know.
I love money, but I love thumbs ups even more, so please smash that like button for Mr. Edit.
Aw, thanks, Karen.
Don't get mushy with me.
Get me fired from the store I no longer work at? If you say so, Karen. This happened when I was 17 in 2007. I dropped out of school but was still living with my dad and working full-time. I'd moved away from my mom for reasons not relevant to the story. I'd been working at a grocery store down the street from the house we were living in for about a month before I quit. We traveled around a lot for Dad's work. The work was great and I got along well with most of the staff. Some of the customers, not so much. But I was accused of stealing, which is why I quit. On my lunch break one day, my supervisor took my till into the back room for me while I went for lunch. We were supposed to do it ourselves, but my naive self didn't think to question it. Not my smartest move. At the end of the day, when I was in the back room counting, my till came up $50 short, which I knew was a mistake because I would never steal money. My supervisor denied taking my till and the manager took her side, so I decided where they could shove the job. On to the story. A week later, I had to pick up the essentials, so I begrudgingly went there to get what I needed. I should mention that the store uniform was a bright red t-shirt and black pants, and I was wearing a light blue singlet with bright colored rainbow shorts. I was on my way to the deli when I heard someone behind me say, "Excuse me," but didn't think much of it as I no longer worked there. A few seconds later, I heard someone say, "Excuse me," even louder, so I turned around. It was a customer I recognized as a Karen. She would come in every few days and would expect everyone to bow to her every whim and complain about prices or stock not being available. Me, can I help you? Probably the wrong thing to say, but the first thing that came out of my mouth. Karen,
Where are the rice cakes?
me, I don't know, probably with the chips. I had only ever worked at the registers, so didn't know the layout of the store very well. Karen,
No, they're not. Go find them for me.
me, go find them yourself. I'm not your maid. Karen,
How dare you speak to me like that? I'm going to get you fired.
me, finally understanding. I don't work here.
Yes, you do. You're here all the time. Why aren't you in uniform anyway? This is horrible customer service. I'll get you fired, young lady.
Me, I quit last week, so go your hardest. I'm glad I don't have to put up with nightmare jerks like you anymore, so you can shove your rice cakes and find someone who cares. I didn't wait for a response and just turned and walked away.
and it felt so good to tell her where to shove it after putting up with her crap for a month. I received a call from Target the day after I'd quit regarding the job application I'd placed there and was given a job there a few days later. I still can't believe my luck and the perfect timing. And although working at Target was better, it wasn't short on Karens, and I have many Karen stories from my work in retail, which I'll share in future posts. Thanks for reading. Speaking of Target, where do you shop? Target or Walmart? Please let us know. I just go to whichever one I'm not banned from at that time. Am I the jerk for getting mad at my wife for leaving our 1-year-old son home alone while he was napping? Context: our son is barely 1, birthday last week. I came home from work and my wife was just getting back from a run, at which point I noticed our son was in the back room sleeping. When I asked her about it, she got defensive and said it was only a mile and I never got far away from the house. I don't think this is safe, so I got mad at her and the whole thing escalated into a fight where I told her what she did wasn't safe. Now she's mad at me, thinks I'm being a judgmental jerk, and doesn't want to talk. She thinks it's no different than being outside in the backyard while he's napping. So what's the deal? Am I the jerk? Edit. So I'm getting a lot of questions and concerns, so I will try and address some of them here. Some things I have already addressed in comments. We do have a running stroller and a treadmill. She used to be big into running and has lost about 100 pounds, so she is starting/wanting to go again. I am incredibly supportive of her working out, but never thought it would come to this. She also has a gym membership to go swimming or whatever. For clarification too, she said she did a mile run and it took her 10 minutes. And after I was visibly angered, she told me she ran a circle around our house. So take that as you will. I watch our son almost every evening, and she is free to get out of the house and do whatever. I am constantly pushing her to hang out with friends and go have coffee breaks, all while I am watching our son. So while it may not be enough, and I obviously need to sit and take a long look at her mental health with her, I do give her countless opportunities for her to get away. But that is her choice. Sometimes she wants to stay home and be around us. It's not just, I got the kid, you do the chores. All in all, she has been an amazing mother. We're both first-timers in this, but I never thought something like this would/could happen. And I certainly didn't think I would be made out to be the bad guy. So thank you for all the questions and input. My wife and I will definitely be having a follow-up about this incident, as well as future conversations about what she needs to deal with her stress and what could have led to something like this happening. Edit 2. Thank you for all the amazing discussions and perspectives. We had a discussion last night, and she's seeing it from my perspective now. She broke down and cried for quite a while and apologized for trying to blame me. It seems this was a one-off thing. She explained to me that she was excited to try some new running shoes and didn't think about how dangerous it all was since he was napping. That being said, I'm going to be continuing to provide her with opportunities galore for space and time outside of the home to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. Mental health is no joke. What do you think? Was OP in the right to be upset by this situation the way he was? Or do you think he overreacted? Please let us know. I'd probably just drop my baby off at a store and tell the cashier to watch it till I get back. Returns require a ticket, but you won't respond to tickets? Okay, I'll make you respond. I worked for an IT company a while back and needed to do a return on a faulty computer component. My tickets would be constantly closed as complete from the vendor with no information given. We realized they use the same ticketing system as us due to a loop created by auto responses back and forth from both systems. We stopped the issue on our side and said, oh well, that's good to know. After a few weeks and 50+ tickets, I was no closer to a resolution. My strategy at this time was spamming them with tickets as they were very easy to create in their system. I tried calling, I'd leave voicemails, but messages stated all returns are done via their online ticketing system. Okay. I sent my ticket to every department several times a day after getting no response from the returns department or my voicemails. Clearly, the tickets could be closed just as easily on their end with no care or repercussion. Then I realized I had the answer all along. I asked my boss to remove the new rules he had implemented to stop the loop of responses. He set another rule to basically auto-clear the response right after it's received, and we have already auto-responded. This was to ensure it doesn't crash the ticketing system, given this was generating a response every few seconds, and I was going to do this on 5 tickets. These responses also generate an email being sent back and forth. That should make for several hundred emails per minute. Better yet, I'm fairly certain images were getting relayed with each response. On an older or poorly set up system, that's a whole lot of traffic and data coming in. Even worse, if no one there knows what's happening or how to stop it. Many companies don't have an IT department due to overall need. They outsource to companies like mine to fulfill those needs. It took less than an hour. We received a frantic call from the vendor asking to stop the auto responses from our system because they didn't know how to. It had basically taken down their email server because it was full and no one knew how to fix it. Oh, sorry about that. I'm glad you called though. I wasn't sure anyone worked at your company because I've been trying to contact you for weeks. We didn't notice a problem on our end, but we can see what's going on now. Must be a different setup. Weird. I had a credit for the part before we ended the call. I hung up the phone victorious, called the boss, and told him to put the rule back. We never bought from them again. Speaking of computers, do you prefer Windows or Mac? Please let us know. Oh, I just love my iPhone. Do any of you have iPhones? Maybe you're listening to this on an iPhone right now. iPhones for the win. Yeah. Am I the jerk for not supporting my sister's GPA celebration? I'm 18, and my sister, who's 15, ended her freshman year with a 4.0 GPA, both weighted and unweighted. I was really happy for her when I heard the news and bought her a congratulatory card and her favorite chocolates when I heard. I know how hard it can be to earn straight A's in high school and appreciated that it was no small feat. I just recently graduated from high school myself with a 4.75 GPA, a 4.0 unweighted GPA. For the past few years, I have earned straight A's as well. At the end of each term, when I told my parents the news, they would congratulate me with a high five and would occasionally make my favorite dessert. Same thing when I graduated with perfect grades. They were congratulatory, but never made a big deal about it. I was grateful for their support and never expected anything more. After my sister ended freshman year with straight A's, however, it was a whole different story. She got to choose where we ate for a whole week. My parents bought her a Nintendo Switch, and my dad even crafted a homemade plaque for her out of wood. Throughout the whole experience, I was happy for her, but I felt somewhat dejected, knowing that her accomplishment was so much more valuable than mine, especially since I graduated with perfect grades after taking several advanced classes, while she has only completed 1 year, arguably the easiest, after taking all regular classes. I ended up having a conversation with my parents about it. The catalyst was them deciding to lease her car that she wouldn't even be able to use for 6 months when I had to pay mine off in full. I expressed my concerns, doing so privately because I didn't want her to think I was downplaying her achievement. They said they understood where I was coming from, but had always known I was smarter and set for good grades. Well, they never expected that from her. My mom even admitted that she was prouder of my sister than she was of me because me getting straight A's was her expectation. I decided to move out about a week ago. This isn't the only instance in which my parents have blatantly favored my sister over me. It's been building for a long time, and I decided that I didn't want to live in an environment that didn't support me. My family have all reached out to me saying that I was a jerk and disrespectful of my sister. I don't know what to do. Am I the jerk? What do you think? Were the parents wrong for rewarding one of their kids but not the other one? Please let us know. My kids always get straight A's. I call the teachers to make sure of it. Am I the jerk for taking away my daughter's car for lying to my fiance? I'm 36 and have a 16-year-old daughter. I have full custody of her because our mom, who's 40, had a mental breakdown and has been in and out of rehab. This January, I started dating my girlfriend, who's 21. Then the current situation started, and the time apart made me realize that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. So I proposed in May, and she's moving in. Our wedding is in October. Since then, my daughter has been a nightmare. She and my youngest sister, who's 25, keep calling my fiance the kid. My fiance decides to invite my daughter out to go shopping. She kept trying to set a date, but my daughter kept saying she had an extracurricular activity. So yesterday, when my daughter once again said she was going to practice her serve, I decided to follow her car. She ended up pulling up to a diner, and I realized she was grabbing lunch with my youngest sister. I am furious. First at my sister for enabling toxic behavior, and second at my daughter for lying to her stepmom. I ended up taking her car keys away from her. Her aunt then calls and said I had no right to do that. I explained that she would not be getting her car back until she makes an attempt to bond with her stepmom. Am I the jerk for not condoning lying? I just want my fiance to be accepted into the family. What do you think? Is OP in the right, or is he wrong for doing this? Please let us know. Karen thought I was a manager because of my clothes and gets put in her place by someone you may not expect. I've been reading a few posts here on this subreddit and didn't have any stories to share. Until now. This is both wholesome and entertaining. You'll see what I mean. Note, all names have been changed, including mine. I work as a housekeeper at a hospital, and the required attire are scrubs. So, on days when I'm not cleaning toilets or mopping floors, I like to dress up and accessorize. One day, on my day off, I was wearing a nice brown paisley dress with a heathered mustard cardigan and needed to go to my local supermarket for a lot of basic necessities. As I was deciding which flour is best for this bread I was planning to bake, I heard an aged voice.
Excuse me, miss?
I turned around and saw an elderly lady. She seemed to be about 70, a little hunched, and about 5 inches shorter than I am.
Could you please help me? I really need to get some confectioner's sugar, and it's awfully high from my reach. Would you hand me over the small box from that top shelf over there?
I'm very polite and like to help those in need, so I replied, "Oh, sure, no problem." I grabbed her a decent-looking box and put it in her cart.
Thank you so much.
She smiled.
Now, could you help me with several other things?
Sure. I wasn't in a hurry. The lady wanted me to help her with about 5 more items. I figured she must have needed help, since she's definitely not the woman she once was. As soon as we finished, she was all smiles and thanked me. "It's no trouble," I replied. We exchanged a few more words, and finally, she introduced herself as Dolores. I introduced myself, and then we both went our separate ways. Next week followed, and I had to go to the store again. And guess who I bumped into? Dolores saw me, and then asked me if I could help her with her shopping. Kind of strange for her to ask me again, but okay. As I was helping her, we had more conversation. What our families are like, our hobbies, what we like to cook, etc. She thanked me again, and then I went to start my shopping. Fast forward to yesterday. Thanksgiving is my family's biggest holiday celebration, only because it's more convenient for our huge family to get together. Because our party usually comes up to 50 people and that the festivities happen at my parents' house, not to mention the same house my dad grew up in, I needed to help my mom get most of the groceries. I just got out of church, so I was wearing black pants and shoes, a nice top with a cardigan, makeup conservatively done, jewelry, and hair sticks. Mom and I grabbed our own carts. We split the list and then split up. I was grabbing some pimento cheese and roca blue when I hear the all too familiar ahem. I turn around and see our Karen. Karen.
Are you done fiddling with those, or are you still daydreaming?
Me. Neither. I'm shopping for Thanksgiving.
Are you allowed to do that?
I believe so. I'm American. Karen huffs.
Well, one of your employees was incredibly rude to me. Follow me, please.
Employees, I thought. What the heck does that mean? I decided I better not mess with this woman and see where this goes. I follow her to the dairy aisle where I see spilled milk and Cody, a friendly boy who I met months back. He was mopping up the mess. Me. Oh, hi Cody. What's up? Cody. Well, Holly,
I'll tell you what's up. I was looking at egg substitutes when this young man spilled milk on the floor and expected me to slip on it like it's a joke. When I called him out on it, he refused to admit it and apologize.
Cody. Sincerely. That's not true. I just happened to see the milk on the floor and was going to find a mop and bucket to clean it up. I don't know how this happened, and I'm very sorry, ma'am, but this lady doesn't work here. Karen.
Now you're going to lie your way out of this? To me? You see what kind of people you hire if you're not careful enough? You need to fire this brat immediately.
Me. Actually, ma'am, it's true. I'm not a manager. And even if I was, I really doubt anyone would get fired over a little accident. Karen, enraged.
A little accident? I could have slipped and broken something. And what do you mean you're not a manager? You're all dressed up like one. You even know this kid's name.
Me. But I'm not wearing a badge. I just like to dress up nicely. Plus, I shop here and see Cody all the time, as he has helped me before. He's a great person, and you'd be silly to say otherwise. Karen, shocked, and points directly at me.
You have got some nerve to trick people like this. I know you work here, but it is clear to me that you are not management material. I will report both of you to the next higher up.
And she stormed off, stubbornly clinging to her beliefs and decidedly likely to chew someone else up and spit them out. Cody. Wow.
I can't believe she still thinks you're a manager. Me. I can't believe she's going to be that upset over spilled milk. Literally. Cody. It happens more than you know. Me. I'll take your word for it. Have a good one, Cody. I went back about my shopping business when I bumped into none other than Dolores. Dolores.
Hello, Holly. How have you been?
Me. Great. Just getting some Thanksgiving business done. Dolores.
That's good, that's good. By the way, did you know there's a spill near the milk area? You might want to send someone to clean it up.
Me. Oh yeah, Cody is already on it. Dolores.
See, that's just the kind of service you don't get much these days.
Service? Wait, she can't think. Before I could respond, I get cut off with,
There she is.
Lo and behold, there was Karen, marching down the aisle with Brian, a head manager. He's a pretty big, tough guy, but nice enough. Karen.
Thought I would forget about you,
To Brian.
This is her, sir.
Dolores.
Karen, what's going on?
Karen.
Mom, that witch you're talking to is a fraud.
That's right, folks. Karen is Dolores' daughter. I was just wondering as how such a sweet lady could have such an entitled jerk for a daughter. One equation that does not compute. Brian, to me. This lady here says that you were posing as a manager, lied for one of the employees, and acted disrespectful towards her. Is that true? Me. No, Karen.
Of course it's true. Why would anyone dress up just to go to a grocery store?
That is a valid point, I admit. But as a citizen who lives in the land of the free and the home of the brave, it's my right to dress however I see fit. Me. So, because I put more effort into my appearance, that automatically makes me a manager or otherwise a liar?
Exactly.
So that's how her thinking works. If you're dressed in a uniform of some sort, you must be a menial of some sort. And when you're dressed professionally, you're a manager. That's Karen logic for you. Dolores, obviously confused.
Wait a minute. There must be some mistake. Holly has been such a big help to me various times. She would never do anything to hurt anybody.
Me. Oh, Dolores, I'm sorry to tell you, but I'm not a manager. I don't even work here. Dolores.
Wait, are you serious?
Me. Yes, I'm sorry how things made it seem that way, but it's true. I'm not a manager. I never was. Dolores.
Then how come you've helped me twice if you weren't?
Me. I know you genuinely needed help. I just did it to be kind. That's how I was raised. Dolores' eyes widened, and she put her hand to her mouth as she realized her mistake. Karen.
This is unacceptable. You clearly have no decency. How dare you mess with my mother that way? You're an imposter of a manager and a disgrace as a human being. People like you sicken me.
Back to Brian.
You need to ban her from this store.
Brian. Ma'am, our policy only turns away customers who are dressed inappropriately. This woman is not violating any dress code. If someone walks around a store and is not wearing a badge, they are most likely a customer. As for the milk spill, we can go check the security footage if you want, but I really doubt someone like Cody would do that, especially since he discovered it, reported the incident to me, and got to cleaning it up fast. Karen.
How dare you? This is poor customer service. Ban this little jerk, or I'm calling the police.
Dolores.
Karen, you will do no such thing. You're acting ridiculous. This is not how we handle things when we are in the wrong. If there is anyone to blame, it is myself for assuming that this young lady was a manager. I suppose after seeing so many young women dress in ways they shouldn't lately, I forgot that there are still decent ladies out there.
She smiled at me. Karen was flabbergasted. Then she finally spoke in a much different tone.
But, Mom, she,
Dolores,
is an exceptional woman, and I'm grateful to know that there is still hope for human decency.
To Karen.
You, on the other hand, have forgotten what's important in life. I've raised you kids better than this. You owe this lady an apology for judging her appearance, and the gentleman for wasting his time. Right now.
Karen.
But,
Dolores.
Right now.
Everyone was speechless. In this day and age, you don't see many Karens get put in their place by their own parents. Karen was quiet for a while, but finally apologized. After a few more minutes of clearing the air and seeing that no harm was really done, I went back about my business and finally finished up my list. My mom caught up with me and asked where I've been, and I told her the story. She was surprised, but then hugged me, saying, "That's my girl." I learned something invaluable. No matter how dark the world may be, keep being someone's ray of sunshine. By helping someone out, they're more likely to help you. So, Karen, what did you think of today's stories?
They were horrible.
Horrible? How dare you? These were some of the best we've ever read.
Oh, shut up, Mr. Reddit. It's ridiculous what people like myself have to go through. Dealing with stupid people like yourself and your subscribers.
Look, Karen, you can say whatever you want about me, but don't you talk about my re-army.
Re-army. Most of your viewers aren't even subscribed to your channel. 70% if I'm correct.
Well, I can't argue with that. That's true. Most of my viewers don't actually subscribe for some reason.
It's because you're stupid, Mr. Reddit.
No, I'm not. All right, guys, let's prove Karen wrong by making sure you're subscribed to the channel and turn on notifications.
They're not going to listen to you.
And if you'd like me or Karen
What?
to record a special message for you, come visit me on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.
Never.
And join as a channel member today, and Karen will give you a special shout out in the next video.
Like heck I will.